I walked down Chunjiang Street in Lincheng, sipping on a milk tea. I stood about 6 feet tall, wearing a school uniform and canvas shoes that had been washed so many times they were turning white. My buzz cut and sharp features gave me a rugged, somewhat handsome look. A gurgling sound came from my straw. The cup was empty. I spotted a trash can a few yards away, tossed the plastic cup into the air, and gave it a sharp kick. Under the surprised stares of the passers-by, the cup flew nearly 15 feet through the air and landed perfectly in the bin. I snapped my fingers. A hole-in-one. I flashed a grin, showing off my white teeth to the onlookers, and kept walking. I hadn't gone more than a few steps when a hand slapped my shoulder. "Fong Li," a crisp, melodic voice called out. I turned around. Standing half a head shorter than me was Yao Qingxue. Her long hair draped over her shoulders, framing a pretty face with sparkling eyes. She was wearing the same school uniform as me. "Qingxue, you're out early," I said, smiling again. "Didn't the teacher call you to the office after class?" She was the class beauty of grade 12, class 8, and my classmate. She quickened her pace to walk beside me. "Yeah," she sighed softly. But he didn't say much. Just reminded me to review hard and keep up with my training. The college entrance exams are only a month away. Time really flies, doesn't it? 3 years gone in the blink of an eye. "It is fast," I nodded. Qingxue tilted her head, looking at me curiously. "So, after the exams, which school are you planning to apply for?" I let out a bitter laugh. With my extraordinary talent, what choice do I have? I'll try my best on the written exams and probably end up at Wendong College here in the city. The words tasted like ash in my mouth. This was a parallel world, one where history matched mine until about 50 years ago when spiritual energy returned to the earth. Animals mutated first, turning into ferocious beasts that nearly wiped out humanity. Then, the awakened appeared, the superhumans. They possessed the power to move mountains and part seas. Under their leadership, humanity pushed the beasts back and rebuilt civilization within massive fortified cities. Now, superhumans ruled the world. Politicians, CEOs, they were all powerful warriors. The head of Ali, the biggest company in Lincheng, was a man everyone called Grandmaster Ma. In this world, if you wanted to be anyone, you had to be a superhuman. That was my problem. I had transmigrated to this world 16 years ago. I had the soul of a traveler, but none of the talent. I hadn't shown a spark of cultivation ability in my entire life. Coming from a poor family meant I couldn't afford the resources to force a breakthrough. If I didn't become a superhuman, I'd stay at the bottom of society forever. The college entrance exam was the machine that sorted the winners from the losers. If you had talent and became a superhuman before the test, you went to a martial arts academy and started a legendary life. If you didn't, you went to a regular college, got a desk job, and scraped by. And if your grades were bad, you sold your labor in the streets. My fate seemed sealed. I took a deep breath, my chest feeling heavy. I was a young man. I wanted a bright future. But the road ahead was already blocked. Damn it. I cursed silently, looking up at the sky. Where's my cheat code? You brought me here, but you're just going to leave me to rot? Qingxue noticed my expression. Her face softened, and she gave me a gentle, playful smile. Wendong College isn't bad. Tell you what, once I graduate from the martial arts academy, I'll start a company. I'll hire you as the general manager. I'll be the hands-off boss, and you'll be set for life. How's that sound? I rolled my eyes. We've been classmates for years. Don't tease me. Who's teasing? She playfully punched my shoulder. I'm serious. Really? I asked. Of course, she said, her face turning mock serious. Don't believe me? Want a pinky swear? 100 years, no changes allowed. I looked at her, then back at the sky. Is this the eating soft rice path? I thought. Well, if I couldn't fight my fate, I might as well embrace a good deal early and save myself 10 years of struggle. No need for pinky swears. Let's just high-five on it. I held out my hand. Deal, she said, slapping my palm with a sharp thwack. Come on, let's get home for lunch. We still have class this afternoon. We turned to walk, but as soon as we stepped forward, *woo, asterisk. A piercing, mournful air raid siren shattered the air. We froze. The entire street went silent. My face turned grim instantly. Beast invasion, I whispered. Quick, to the shelter. Qingxue's expression hardened. Living in a major city wasn't always safe. Beast attacks happened. When the sirens wailed, civilians hid, and the military moved in. We bolted down the street. All around us, cars slammed on their brakes. People abandoned their vehicles and ran for their lives. The panic spread through the office buildings and apartments like a wildfire. This wasn't a drill. If the defense line broke and a beast entered the city, anyone caught outside was dead. We reached the intersection at the end of the street, ready to turn toward the nearest shelter. Suddenly, a massive gust of wind slammed into us. It was so powerful it knocked everyone to the ground. Smaller people were literally blown away, sliding across the pavement and screaming. I pressed myself against the asphalt, my heart hammering against my ribs. Where did this wind come from? I shouted over the roar. Qingxue was pinned beside me, her face pale. I don't know, but the siren just went off. Did a giant beast break into the city? Right then, a high-pitched screech tore through the sky. It was so loud it felt like needles stabbing into my eardrums. I groaned in pain, my stomach dropping. Whatever could make a sound like that was terrifying. As the screech faded, I forced my head up and looked toward the source. My eyes nearly popped out of my head. High in the clouds, a gargantuan eagle was soaring toward us. Its wingspan had to be over 3,000 feet. Its feathers were pure, shimmering gold, and its massive talons were covered in thick, black scales. Its beak was a jagged hook that glinted like cold steel in the sun. It blotted out the light, casting a massive, moving shadow over the entire district. A king-class beast. I gasped, my voice trembling. The golden-winged Pong. Beasts were ranked by size and power: primary, intermediate, general, king, and the legendary emperor class. The monster above us was a king, a literal god of destruction. Yao Qingxue looked up and gasped, her face draining of color. It really was a king-class beast, the golden-winged Pong. The monster was closing in fast. Based on its trajectory, it was going to scream past us just a few miles to our right. I felt a sharp, primal jolt of danger. Qingxue, get up. I yelled, my voice tight. We have to move. Now. Get to the underground shelter. We can't stay out in the open. She knew how terrifying these beasts were. She nodded quickly, and we both struggled to our feet, fighting against the gale force winds. We needed to cross the intersection to reach the buildings on the other side. If we could get between the structures, they might act as a windbreak and give us a chance to move faster. High above, the golden-winged Pung looked down at the people scurrying through the streets. To a god like that, we were nothing more than ants. Its eyes flashed with a cruel, predatory light. It opened its massive beak and spat. A pillar of golden fire erupted from its throat. The flames slammed into the ground and plowed forward for miles before the beast finally cut it off. In an instant, the heart of the city became a nightmare. A massive swath of land, extending hundreds of meters on either side of the impact, was transformed into a sea of golden fire. The inferno was spreading. We were struggling to walk when I noticed a golden glow behind us. It grew brighter and brighter. I spun around, and my heart nearly stopped. A wall of golden flames was rolling toward us like a tidal wave, swallowing everything in its path. We froze. My brain went completely numb. The heat was unbearable. The wave of fire roared toward us, finally losing its momentum and stopping barely 100 meters away. But the shockwave of heat that followed was like a physical punch. It slammed into us, throwing us backward. I hit the ground hard and tumbled across the asphalt until I finally came to a stop. I shook my head, trying to clear the cobwebs, and crawled back up. The street across from us was gone. It was just a lake of golden fire. I heard the screams, horrible, high-pitched wails of people who hadn't been fast enough. One man, near the edge of the fire, managed to roll out. He was covered in golden flames, thrashing on the ground, trying desperately to put them out. But the fire wouldn't die. It burned hotter and brighter until, within seconds, he was nothing but a pile of gray ash. Everyone inside that sea of fire met the same fate. I felt a chill run down my spine that had nothing to do with the temperature. We were so far away from the Pong, yet a single, casual breath from that beast had caused this much slaughter. If we had been just a little closer, we'd be ash too. We were so small. Humans were nothing in the face of a king-class beast. Suddenly, a thunderous voice boomed from the sky. "You filthy beast. How dare you?" I looked up. A streak of light was flying in from the city center, heading straight for the golden-winged Pong. It was a man carrying a shimmering longsword. "It's Grandmaster Ma," someone shouted. The Pong saw him coming. Its eyes turned murderous. It banked its massive body and beat its wings, launching thousands of golden feathers like a hail of razor-sharp daggers. Grandmaster Ma didn't flinch. His body erupted with spiritual energy. He blurred through the air, twisting and diving between the feather blades with impossible speed. Once he cleared the barrage, he raised his sword. "Cut!" he roared. He poured his energy into the blade and swung. A massive arc of sword light, nearly 1,000 meters long, sliced through the air. The Pung realized the danger and tried to dodge, but it was a fraction of a second too slow. The light clipped the edge of its wing, severing a massive chunk of flesh. Golden blood sprayed across the sky. The Pung shrieked in agony and rage. It abandoned its flight path and turned, diving straight for the Grandmaster. The man didn't back down. He charged forward, a tiny human speck flying toward a monster hundreds of times his size. They collided in midair, and the sky exploded with power. I watched them fight, completely mesmerized. I had seen battles like this on TV, but witnessing it in person was different. It changed something inside me. It made me realize that humans didn't have to be small, that a tiny body could hold the power of a god. I needed to become an awakened. If I had power, I wouldn't have been knocked down by the wind. I wouldn't have been standing there like a helpless ant, waiting to see if luck would let me live or burn me to ash. I was tired of relying on luck. I have to become an awakened, I whispered to myself, my eyes locked on the tiny figure fighting in the clouds. I craved that power. I wanted to break the chains of my own weakness. Right then, a cold, mechanical voice rang out inside my head. Ding! After 16 years, the infinite smelting system has been repaired. Binding to host. Binding complete. Loading limitless god body. Loading complete. Granting compatible cultivation technique. Myriad devouring art. Loading status panel. A screen appeared in my mind's eye. Host. Lin Yuan. Realm. Ordinary human. Physique. Limitless god body. Can train to the absolute limit of every realm. Technique. Myriad devouring art. Function 1. Pill smelting, unlocked. Function 2. Divine ability smelting, locked. Requirement. 50 billion renminbi. Current progress, 0%. My whole body shivered. My hands were shaking, and I couldn't stop the grin spreading across my face. 16 years. I had waited 16 years in this world, and my system was finally here. In that same moment, the world felt different. I could feel it, a faint, thin energy drifting in the air. This was the first step of the sensory realm. I could finally perceive spiritual energy. Lin Yuan, are you okay? Qingshua's voice snapped me back to reality. I looked at her and shook my head. I'm fine. Just some scrapes. Me too, she sighed, leaning against a piece of rubble. Thank God Grandmaster Ma showed up. That Prung won't get away now. I was so scared. If that fire had moved just a little further, we'd be gone. Yeah, I said, looking at the burning street. A king-class beast is a nightmare. One breath and an entire district is gone. If the Grandmaster had been a few minutes later, the whole city would be a graveyard. Around us, other survivors were crawling out of the wreckage. Some people, apparently forgetting they were still in a war zone, pulled out their phones to film the fight. They were already uploading videos with titles like Grandmaster Ma Battles Golden Winged Pong. Up in the clouds, the battle grew more intense. Grandmaster Ma swung his sword again and again, sending arcs of light to box the Pung in. The beast was too fast in open space, so he was forcing it into a corner. But the Pung wasn't backing down. Its primal ferocity had taken over. It spat more fire and lunged with its massive talons. But the Grandmaster was like a leaf in the wind, dodging every strike and landing deep, bloody cuts in return. The more it bled, the crazier the beast became. The Pung grew more hateful by the second. It fought Grandmaster Ma with a desperate, lingering fury. But as the battle dragged on, the Grandmaster tightened the noose. He compressed the beast's flight path until it had nowhere left to dive. Wuji's sword gang, the Grandmaster roared. He poured the vast majority of his spiritual energy into his green steel blade. It was his strongest move. He lunged, stabbing twice in a blur of motion. Two streaks of white light, 3 feet long and thick as a finger, tore through the air with unstoppable power. They streaked toward the Peng's head and belly. The golden-winged Peng saw the flashes. Its eyes filled with pure terror. It twisted its body mid-air, barely dodging the strike aimed at its skull. The sword light grazed its forehead, carving a shallow groove in the bone and drawing a trickle of blood. But the second strike hit home. It punched straight through the beast's underbelly. The energy exploded inside, tearing a massive hole nearly 300 meters wide. Organs and blood rained down like a gruesome waterfall. The Peng let out a final, mournful wail. It glided limply for a moment, tumbling through the sky before crashing toward the earth. Grandmaster Ma didn't chase it down immediately. Those 2 strikes had drained him. He hovered in the air, regulating his breathing and calming his internal energy. He wasn't worried. A king-class beast couldn't survive a direct hit from a Grandmaster's full-power sword gang. It was a guaranteed kill. Boom. The Peng slammed into the ground, creating a massive crater just 100 meters away from us. Dust and debris exploded into the air. Despite the danger, the survivors didn't run. Curiosity got the better of them. They stared at the fallen titan, mesmerized. This was the first time any of them had been this close to a king-class disaster. Some of the bolder ones even turned their backs to the crater, holding up their phones to snap selfies with the dying beast. They wanted proof. They wanted something to brag about for the rest of their lives. But I saw what they didn't. The Peng wasn't dead yet. It still had 1 breath left. I looked into its eyes. They were cold, cruel, and filled with a burning hatred for the ants standing around it. Even at the brink of death, it wanted to turn us all to ash. It opened its massive beak. A brilliant golden light began to glow deep in its throat. The remaining spiritual energy in its body started to boil, churning into a torrent of flames. "It's still alive," someone screamed. "Run, it's going to breathe fire." The crowd panicked. Nobody had forgotten how the Peng's breath had turned entire city blocks into a sea of fire. We were barely 100 meters away, standing directly in the line of fire. If that flame erupted, everything within 500 meters would be incinerated. The shadow of death fell over us. The excitement vanished, replaced by pure, raw terror. "Lin Yuan, we have to go? Now," Qingxue shouted. She grabbed her bag and bolted in the opposite direction. I didn't move. My eyes were fixed on the beast. We were only 100 meters away. If I ran in a straight line, I was dead. If I tried to run left or right, I'd have to cover 500 meters to escape the blast radius. There was no way we were fast enough. For most of these people, running was just a slower way to die. I felt a surge of bitterness. I had just gained a system. I had just started to see the path of cultivation. I wasn't going to let a dying bird take that away from me. Why should I die? A spark of primal ferocity ignited in my mind. If this thing wanted to kill me, I'd kill it first. I spotted a jagged piece of rebar on the ground, about 4 meters long. I lunged for it, gripped the cold metal, and charged straight at the Peng. Qingxue looked back and froze. Her head went numb. "Lin Yuan, come back," she screamed. I didn't listen. Running meant dying together. Charging was the only gamble I had left. The beast was fading. I had a chance. Up in the sky, Grandmaster Ma spotted me. "That kid is bold," he muttered. Most people couldn't even stand near a king-class beast because of the overwhelming pressure and bloodlust it radiated. He still hadn't realized the Peng was preparing a final strike. The closer I got, the heavier the air became. The sight of those massive, golden feathers made my heart tremble. It felt like standing before a natural predator. Every instinct in my body told me to turn and run. I forced it down. I locked my eyes on the Peng's head and sprinted. 10 seconds. That's all it took to reach the beast's skull. We stared at each other, eye to eye. Both of us were filled with killing intent. The golden light in its throat reached a breaking point. It was ready to erase me. I saw the wound on its forehead, the crack in the bone left by the Grandmaster. My face twisted into a snarl. I raised the rebar with both hands and lunged. At that exact moment, Grandmaster Ma felt the surge of spiritual energy from below. He realized his mistake. "Damn it," he cursed, diving toward the ground. He finally understood why I was charging, but he didn't think I could actually do anything. A king-class beast, even with 1 foot in the grave, wasn't something a normal person could handle. He just hoped he could reach us before the explosion killed everyone. Die, I warned. I threw every ounce of my strength into the strike. I slammed the 4-meter rebar into the crack in the Peng's skull. It slid in deep, piercing all the way into the brain. Hot, thick blood sprayed across my face, making me look like a demon. In the distance, Qingxue stopped running. She was speechless. She never expected the quiet, steady Lin Yuan to be this ruthless. But she understood now. Running was a death sentence. Fighting was life. The Peng let out a final, gurgling shriek. It tried to release the fire, desperate to take me down with it. It was almost there. The flames were at the tip of its beak. Then, everything changed. An unimaginable suction force erupted from the rebar in my hands. It began to violently swallow the beast's remaining essence, spirit, and soul. The roaring flames in the Peng's throat suddenly flickered and died out. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. I felt a massive surge of spiritual energy erupt from the golden-winged Peng. It flowed through the rebar like a river of fire, pouring directly into my body. The energy began slamming into my pressure points, one after another. I knew what this meant. I was breaking through to the chi-sensing realm. In this world, the path of the transcendent has 10 levels. The first is chi-sensing. You have to feel the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, draw it in, and fill 120 specific pressure points. Once they are all full, the energy forms a grand cycle. That's when you truly become a transcendent. After that, you keep refining your body until you reach the second level, bone tempering. Under the flood of the Peng's energy, my pressure points were being forced open at a terrifying speed. 1, 2, 8. They filled up instantly. But I realized I wasn't just absorbing energy. I was swallowing the Peng's very will. Images flashed before my eyes like a frantic movie. I saw the Peng's entire life. I saw it as a weak hatchling, fighting for survival among monsters. I felt its wings beat against the sky as it conquered countless rivals to become a king-class beast. And finally, I felt its shock as it died by my hand. For a moment, I was the golden-winged Peng. I gained insights into things I couldn't even put into words, combat techniques, instincts, and the raw essence of the sky. I knew I'd need time to digest all of this. But the value of this mental legacy was far greater than the spiritual energy itself. I realized what was happening. My heavenly devouring manual had activated on its own. As the energy continued to pour in, my 9th and 10th pressure points filled up. My strength was exploding. I used to be able to lift about 150 pounds. Now, I felt like I could easily handle 180. I wanted more, but a shadow fell over me. Grandmaster Ma landed nearby. He looked at me with a deep, unreadable expression. "Young man," he said, "you have quite the character." My heart skipped a beat. Was he talking about my bravery, or did he see what I was doing? I immediately let go of the rebar. The devouring manual stopped instantly. I didn't want him thinking I was some kind of freak stealing the beast's essence. Even though I landed the killing blow, I knew I couldn't have done it without his final strike. I had basically scavenged his kill. I turned around and bowed respectfully. "Greetings, Grandmaster." The beast was about to launch a final attack. I knew I couldn't run fast enough, so I just decided to go for it. I got lucky. Grandmaster Ma nodded slowly. "You have spine. It's a good thing you did. If that beast had released its flames, many people would have died today." He gestured toward the crowd of fleeing students. "I wouldn't have stood a chance if you hadn't wounded it first, sir," I said, offering an awkward smile. "You're a clever one," he chuckled. "You know how to talk. But a job well done is a job well done. I won't let you go unrewarded." He pointed a finger, and a bolt of energy pierced the Peng's chest. He extracted some of its heart blood into a small bottle and carved out a choice piece of meat, placing it in a box. He handed them both to me. "This is heart blood and meat from a king-class beast," he explained. "Take these to the Hanxia Chamber of Commerce. You can trade them for money or gene serums. You're probably heading toward your college entrance exams soon. You'll need these." I took the containers, my hands trembling. This was a fortune. Even a small amount of king-class material was worth millions. Most people in this country work their entire lives and never saw a fraction of that kind of money. I had just made over 10 million in a single moment. Risk and reward really did go hand in hand. Thank you for the gift, Grandmaster, I said. I'll be taking the carcass, he said, nodding. Keep working hard. I hope to see you among the ranks of the Transcendents one day. He lingered for a moment, studying me. His gaze made my skin crawl. I was almost certain he had noticed something about the way I killed it. Finally, he wrapped the Peng's massive body in a shroud of energy and took to the sky, disappearing into the clouds. I let out a long, shaky breath. The pressure was finally gone. Qingxue ran over to me, her face pale. Are you hurt? I'm fine, I said, forcing a smile. The beast was half dead already. I just finished it off. You scared me to death, she cried. I never thought you'd actually turn back. That was a king-class beast, Lin Yuan. How did you have the guts? I guess I'm just reckless, I joked. You're a hero, she said, her voice softening. If you hadn't done that, we'd all be cinders by now. Anyway, what did the Grandmaster give you? I showed her the box and the bottle. Heart, blood, and meat. Her eyes went wide. Wow, you're rich. You can get at least 10 million for that at the Chamber of Commerce. She punched my shoulder playfully. I always thought you were the quiet, steady type. I didn't know you had this side to you. I don't usually get attacked by giant birds, I replied. We started walking home, chatting as the adrenaline faded. But I didn't realize we were being watched. High up in a nearby building, a man in a black suit watched us through binoculars. He had a thick beard and a greedy glint in his eyes. His name was Chen-Ah-san. King-class blood and meat, he whispered to himself. A mere student doesn't deserve something that valuable. That belongs to me. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number. Monkey, he said when the call connected. I found a big score. A student in a school uniform, walking down Chunjiang Road. He's carrying a small box and a bottle. He's easy to spot. Get the boys together and intercept him. A student boss? When do we move? The voice on the other end asked. Now, follow them and find a quiet spot. If he fights back, break him. I don't care if he's crippled, just don't kill him yet. A few more cripples in this district won't make the news. Understood, Sango. We'll make sure he spends the rest of his life in a wheelchair if he doesn't hand it over. Do it fast, Chen-Ah-san snapped. He hung up and turned back to the window, watching us disappear into the distance. He could already taste the profit. To him, I wasn't a person anymore. I was just a walking paycheck. I couldn't stop thinking about the money. Millions of dollars, maybe even 20 million. The thought made my heart race. Chen-Ah-san was a local thug, a bottom feeder who ran a massive nightclub and operated in the gray areas of the law. He had a small army of enforcers, and Monkey was one of his best. Monkey had already started his path to becoming a transcendent. He had opened 20 pressure points, giving him the strength of 200 pounds. He was Chen-Ah-san's right hand, a loyal dog with blood on his hands. Chen-Ah-san lived large, but he had to pay off the bosses above him and take care of the people below. At the end of the year, he only pocketed a few million. That was the struggle of an ordinary man. His power was limited. His lifestyle was fragile. One wrong move from the authorities, and everything he owned would vanish. Meanwhile, I was walking home with Yao Qingxue. After a while, we reached a fork in the road and said our goodbyes. Her family was wealthy, and she lived in a luxury district. I lived in an old, crowded urban village. As I walked alone, a notification pinged in my mind. Ding! Detected golden-winged, great pung heart blood and meat. Can be refined into a pill. Refine now. I hesitated. If I refined it, $10 million would disappear instantly. But I knew the system wouldn't cheat me. If the cost was high, the reward would be greater. Refine it, I thought. The box and bottle in my hands suddenly felt light. The system had extracted the contents. Ding! Refining complete. You have obtained a spirit yellow pill. Consuming this will grant a massive amount of spiritual energy, stored in the subspace. A magical space appeared in my mind. A pure white pill floated there, glowing softly. With a thought, I pulled it into my palm. It felt cold to the touch. I looked around to make sure the street was empty, then I swallowed it. Instantly, a tidal wave of spiritual energy exploded from the pill. It flooded my limbs and surged into my pressure points. The concentration was staggering. It was far more potent than the energy found in the natural world. It felt so good I almost thought I could fly. I stood frozen in place, letting the power wash over me. At that moment, Monkey Scout spotted me. A student in a uniform, carrying a box and a bottle. I was an easy target. They called Monkey, who called China-san. The order was clear: wait for an opening, then strike. Take the box. Take the bottle. I didn't know I was being hunted. I was too busy feeling my pressure points fill up. The spirit yellow pill was incredible. In just 1 minute, 3 pressure points were fully charged. If the top students at the academy saw this, their jaws would drop. It usually took them a month of grueling training and expensive gene medicine to achieve what I just did in 60 seconds. 10 minutes later, the pill's power faded. 30 new pressure points were filled. Adding that to the 10 I got from the bird earlier, I now had 40 points charged. I was 1/3 of the way to the chi sensing realm. My strength surged again. I went from 180 pounds of force to 250. One punch from me now could level an ordinary man. I wonder if this was worth 10 million, I whispered, smiling to myself. I didn't know much about professional training, but my gut told me it was a steal. Normally, filling 30 points took a year of work and at least $20 million in nutrition and medicine. In this world, you either needed a rich family or genius talent to become a transcendent. I didn't regret the money. Strength was the only currency that truly mattered. Once I was powerful, making money would be easy. I eventually reached the urban village. The streets here were a maze of narrow alleys. I took a shortcut to get home faster, turning into a quiet side street. Suddenly, a man blocked my path. He was thin, tall, and had a face like a rat. A jagged scar ran down his left cheek. It was Monkey. He looked at me, a cruel smirk playing on his lips. "Kid," he said, his voice cold. "My boss wants that box and that bottle. Hand them over, and we can all walk away happy." I blinked. I hadn't realized how valuable the bird's meat really was. People must have been watching the moment the master killed it. But this guy had no manners. He just wanted to rob me. "You're Monkey?" I asked. "And your boss is China-san? You live around here, so you should know his name," Monkey sneered. "Give me the goods before things get ugly." I laughed. "Oh, so your boss is just that low-level thug, China-san." Monkey's eyes turned icy. For that comment, you're losing a finger. A surge of raw aggression flared up inside me. It wasn't just my own anger. Having the memories of the golden-winged Great Pung had changed something in my psyche. The Great Pung ruled the skies. It slaughtered powerful beasts like they were nothing. It was a creature of absolute dominance. Because I was still a weak transcendent, I couldn't fully resist its predatory instincts. Monkey saw the look in my eyes. "What? You think you can take me? I'll give you one last chance. Hand over the box. Let me cut off one finger as an apology for disrespecting my boss, and we're done. Otherwise, I'll break you. You'll spend the rest of your life in a bed, wishing you were dead." I looked at him, and for the first time in my life, I felt a genuine urge to kill. "So, you're going to make me a cripple for life?" I asked, my voice eerily calm. "What else did you expect?" Monkey sneered, looking down on me like he was a god deciding my fate. "That's what happens when you don't listen. Now, you have a choice. Be a good boy and lose one finger, or stay stubborn and lose everything." I looked at the box and the bottle in my hands, then tossed them casually to the side. They clattered against the pavement, empty. The spirit yellow pill was already inside me, fully refined. I had nothing to give him even if I wanted to. But more importantly, I realized that if I didn't finish this here and now, it would never end. I felt the power surging through my 40 open pressure points. 250 pounds of raw force vibrated through my muscles. I wasn't about to let some street thug push me around. "Then I guess I'll just have to see what you're actually made of, Monkey," I said. Monkey's face twisted. "You chose the hard way." He let out a sharp cry and lunged at me, his eyes cold and murderous. To him, I was just a bratty student who needed to be put down. He had been with Chun-Ah-san since the beginning, killing and fighting his way through the underworld to build their little empire. He had 20 pressure points open and could strike with 200 pounds of force. Against a normal kid, he was a monster. But I wasn't a normal kid anymore. As he charged, I took a deep breath. Instead of fear, a wave of dark excitement washed over me. I wanted this. I stepped forward to meet him. Monkey's knife flashed in the dim light. He put everything into the strike, boosting his power to over 260 pounds as he aimed straight for my throat. I didn't panic. In my mind, the memories of the golden-winged great Pung began to flicker like a movie. I saw its battles, its kills, its predatory grace. I stopped thinking and started reacting on pure instinct. I slipped to the left. The blade whistled past my neck, missing by an inch. Monkey froze for a split second, shocked that a student had dodged his best move. His face darkened with frustration. He twisted his wrist, trying to sweep the blade back toward my jugular, but I was faster. I slammed my palm into his wrist. The impact was heavy. Monkey's arm buckled, and he stumbled back, nearly dropping his knife. "This kid," Monkey muttered, steadying himself. He stared at me, his eyes filled with doubt. That one hit felt like being struck by a sledgehammer. He realized I had at least 200 pounds of force behind my strikes. "I underestimated you," he hissed, a cruel grin returning to his face. "But that just makes it more fun. I can't wait to hear you scream." He rushed me again, slashing downward toward my face. I didn't move until the last second. I stepped aside, letting the blade cut through empty air, and launched a counterattack. I put my full weight into a horizontal kick aimed straight at his gut. 360 pounds of force exploded from my leg. Monkey didn't even see it coming. My foot slammed into his stomach with a sickening thud. He let out a choked groan and flew backward, hitting the ground hard. His face turned the color of raw liver as he gasped for air. He scrambled to his feet, trembling, his eyes wide with disbelief. He couldn't even calculate how much power was behind that kick, but he knew one thing. He couldn't match it. I stood there, soaking in the sensation of the fight. Every move I made helped me absorb the Great Pang's combat memories faster. It felt incredible. I curled my fingers, beckoning him to come at me again. "Come on," I provoked. "Is that all?" Insulted and blinded by rage, Monkey let out a roar and charged one last time. He put every ounce of his strength into a final, desperate stab at my throat. I stood perfectly still, my focus sharpening until the world seemed to slow down. Just as the blade reached me, I reached out. My hand clamped onto his wrist like a steel vise, stopping the knife dead in its tracks. Monkey's eyes bulged. He tried to pull away, but I didn't give him the chance. With a sharp twist of my hand, I snapped his wrist. The sound of breaking bone echoed in the alley. He screamed. The knife fell from his limp fingers. I caught it midair and, in one fluid motion, drove the blade across his throat. Slash! He didn't even have time to react. A deep crimson line opened up across his neck. He clutched at the wound, blood spraying through his fingers, his eyes staring at me in shock. He tried to speak, but only a wet gurgle came out. "What?" I asked coldly. "You tried to kill me first. This is just self-defense." Under the influence of the Great Pung, killing him felt no different than slaughtering a wild beast. My heart didn't even skip a beat. "You have a decent amount of chi in you," I whispered, stepping closer. "Don't let it go to waste." I pressed my palm against his chest and activated the Devouring Heaven scripture. I felt his life force, his essence, and his spiritual energy being ripped out of him and pulled into my own body. Monkey's body convulsed, his muffled screams dying out as he withered away. When I finished, he was a cold corpse. I checked my progress. His entire life's work only filled about 20% of my 41st pressure point. So little. I muttered, disappointed. The Great Pung spoiled me. I quickly searched his memories as they faded. I saw Chun Asan's plan, how he'd heard about the king-level beast blood and sent his best man to take it. I saw Monkey's life of crime, his greed, and his cruelty. I reached into his pockets and pulled out his phone. I used his thumb to unlock it, logged into his mobile banking, and transferred every cent he had to my account. 36,100 yuan. It wasn't much, but in the world of transcendence, everything cost money. This guy had earned millions over the years, but he'd spent almost all of it on low-grade gene serums just to open 20 measly points. What a waste. I looked down at the body. I was in a back alley in a crowded part of town. It wouldn't be long before someone found him. If the authorities got involved, it would be a headache. I wasn't scared. He attacked me first, after all, but I had things to do. I needed to disappear before the sirens started. I had just killed a man. It was self-defense, but explaining that to the police would be a nightmare I didn't need. I looked around the empty alley. I needed to hide the evidence. With a thought, I activated the storage space in my mind. It was a spatial ring that had awakened along with my system. I focused my will on Monkey's cold body and his bloodstained dagger. In an instant, they vanished, tucked away in the void of the ring. I'd find a place to dispose of them properly later. Standing there in the silence, I felt a strange chill. I had just taken a life, yet my heart wasn't racing. I felt no guilt, no horror. Was I always this cold-blooded, or was the Great Ping's predatory instinct rewiring my brain? Maybe it was both. I shook the thoughts away. I couldn't afford a midlife crisis at 18. I had a target on my back. Chen Asen wouldn't just forget about his missing enforcer, and the college entrance exams were only a month away. If I wanted to be more than a footnote in this world, I had to become a true transcendent. In the Hanxiao Empire, if you weren't a martial artist, you were nothing. I picked up my discarded containers and slipped out of the alley. An hour later, Chen Asen was losing his mind. He'd been calling Monkey for 20 minutes, but every call went straight to voicemail. He paced his office, teeth gritted. Did the bastard take the blood and run? Did he betray him for a bigger payday? He sent his goons to track Monkey's last known location. They didn't find the man, but they found his phone lying in the dirt of a narrow alley. Next to it was a massive pool of blood. It looked like a slaughterhouse. Chen Asen stared at the report, baffled. If Monkey had defected, he wouldn't have left his phone behind. But the idea that a high school kid had killed his best fighter was even more ridiculous. Monkey was a seasoned killer with 20 pressure points open. Find that if he's still walking around school tomorrow, then that blood belongs to Monkey. And I want to know exactly how it got there. I knew none of this yet. I was walking home, my mind buried in the mechanics of my system. I remembered a locked feature, divine ability refinement. The price tag to unlock it was a staggering 50 billion yuan. 50 billion. I looked at the 36,000 I'd just stolen from Monkey's bank account. It felt like a grain of sand on a beach. System, I whispered. Can I use this money to unlock the progress bar? Confirmed. The cold mechanical voice echoed in my head. Please prepare the funds. I didn't hesitate. Exchange 36,100 yuan. A notification flashed before my eyes. My bank balance hit 0, and my status panel updated. Host, Lin Yuan Realm. Ordinary human physique. Ultimate God Body Function 1. Pill Refinement. Active. Function 2. Divine Ability Refinement. Locked. Unlock Progress. 0.0000722%. I stared at the zeros. My face went dark. I had just emptied a dead man's life savings into the system, and it didn't even make the progress bar flinch. This thing was a money-hungry beast. 50 billion was an astronomical sum for a kid living in the slums. But I knew the power was worth it. The pill refinement had already turned a scrap of bird meat into a miracle. In the real world, only massive corporations with labs and rare materials could produce gene serums that powerful. I had a shortcut to the heavens, but the toll was steep. I reached my apartment building in the village within the city. It was a crumbling 8-story walk-up labeled Building 32. The iron gate at the entrance was rusted open, and the walls were covered in peeling paint and shady advertisements. The air smelled like damp concrete and old trash. Usually, climbing to the 6th floor left me winded. Not today. With 40 pressure points active, I took the stairs 3 at a time. I didn't even break a sweat. I pushed open the door to our 50-square-meter apartment. The scent of braised eggplant hit me instantly. It was a small space, cramped with old furniture from a decade ago. My sister and I had the 2 tiny bedrooms, while my father, Lin Han, slept on a cot in the living room. We weren't rich, but we were a family. My mother had passed away when I was a baby, so it had always been just us. "You're back?" my father called out. He walked out of the kitchen holding a steaming plate. He was only 43, but his back was slightly hunched, and his hair was shot through with gray. The stress of supporting us on a fruit stand worker's salary had aged him a decade too early. "Let me help with that, Dad," I said, reaching for the plate. "Stay back," he laughed, dodging me. "You've got exams coming up. Focus on your books. If you get into a good academy, that's all the help I need." He set the table, his eyes bright despite the exhaustion. The sirens were going off earlier. People are saying a massive pung bird broke through the city defenses. They say Master Ma killed it. Did you see anything? I hesitated. I couldn't tell him I had eaten the bird's heart and killed a man in an alley. He'd have a heart attack. Yeah, I lied, keeping my voice steady. I saw it on the way home. Master Ma was incredible. One arrow and the bird was done for. My father paused, squinting at me. He noticed the scuffs on my clothes and the small scrape on my arm. Are you hurt? I shook my head and forced a smile. Just a scratch. I was running for the air raid shelter and tripped. It's nothing. He exhaled, the tension leaving his shoulders. Good. Just stay safe, son. That's all that matters. Go wash up, my father said, nodding toward the bathroom. Dinner will be ready in a minute. You got it, I replied. I headed to the bathroom and splashed some cold water on my face, trying to wash away the lingering adrenaline from the alleyway. Once I dried off, I walked over to my sister's room. I found her sitting in her wheelchair, hunched over a drawing pad. She was focused, her pencil moving with delicate precision. What are you working on? I asked, stepping closer. She turned around and gave me a small smile. An angel. My sister's name was Lynn Alling. She was 15 years old. When she was a child, a car accident had taken the use of her legs. Then, in middle school, she had been ruthlessly bullied by her classmates. The trauma left deep psychological scars. She hadn't set foot in a school for 3 years, spending her days trapped inside our home. The bullies were all under 18 and came from wealthy, influential families. They never faced a single day of punishment. Instead, their parents had insulted my father when he tried to seek justice. Being at the bottom of the social ladder meant we had to swallow our bitterness. If we fought back, the price would have been even higher. That memory was like a thorn stuck in my heart for a decade. It hurt every time I saw her hiding in this room, too afraid to face the world. I reached out and ruffled her long hair. Let me see how it's looking. Alling pointed to the board. I looked down and saw an angel standing in the middle of a dark, pouring rainstorm. The white wings were striking against the gray clouds, but as I looked closer, my throat went dry. The angel only had one wing. The sight of that broken figure hit me hard. I forced a smile, though it felt stiff. Wow, it's beautiful, Alling. It looks so real. She blushed and looked down. You're lying, brother. It's just okay. I looked at her pale face and spoke softly. I'd never lie to you. Your drawings are the most beautiful things in the world. She let out a little giggle. I looked around the room at the other sketches taped to the walls. There were animals, people, and landscapes. The living things were always broken or missing limbs. The scenery was always dark and gray. Even though the afternoon sun was streaming through the window, creating a bright circle of light on the floor, it felt out of place in this room. My chest felt tight. Since the bullying started, this tiny room had become both her sanctuary and her cage. Anger flickered in my gut. Fate was incredibly unfair. She had been called a cripple since she was a kid, and that cruelty had driven her into hiding. Brother? You're staring again, Alling said, pulling me back to reality. I shook off the dark thoughts and smiled. Just enjoying the sunlight. Come on, let's go eat. She put down her pencil, and I pushed her wheelchair toward the living room. As we moved, a silent vow took root in my mind. Alling, I will become a transcendent. I will find a way to make you walk again. I'll make sure you can step out into the world without fear. And those 3 bastards who ruined her life? They would pay 100 times over. I wouldn't forgive them. Ever. As the predatory instincts from the great Peng's blood simmered in my veins, my gaze grew cold. I needed strength. I needed the gene medicine that could repair her legs, no matter the cost. We sat down for dinner as a family. For a moment, everything felt peaceful. During the meal, I checked my phone and saw a notification in the class group chat. Because of the golden-winged Great Pung attack, school was canceled for Friday afternoon. If things stayed stable, we'd resume on Monday. We were expected to study at home. I told my father the news. I wanted to help him at the fruit stand since I had the time, but he shot me down immediately. He insisted I stay home and study for the college entrance exams. I didn't tell him yet that I planned to apply for the martial arts academy. Too much had happened today. I needed to process it all first. After lunch, my father headed back to the fruit stand. It was our only source of income. Not much, but enough to keep us fed. Alling went back to her room to nap. and I retreated to my own space to finish digesting the great Peng's will and adapt to my new strength. While I was resting, miles away in the executive office of the Allen Group, Master Ma stood before a holographic projection. He was reporting to a middle-aged man in a military uniform. "Commander Liu," Master Ma said respectfully. "Old Ma," the commander replied. "What's the report on the Peng invasion in Ling City?" "The casualties were manageable," Ma said. "But that's not why I'm calling. During the cleanup, I found a student with a devouring constitution." Commander Liu's expression turned dead serious. He went silent for a moment before asking, "Are you certain?" "Absolutely. When I flew past him, I felt him absorbing the essence and spirit of the great Peng. It's been years since a devouring constitution appeared. Have you checked his background?" "I have," Master Ma replied. "I thought he was just from a normal family, but he's actually connected to the imperial family in Yanjing." Commander Liu frowned. "The royals?" "Yes. It's the same old story. The eldest daughter was suppressed and cast out years ago. This student, Lin Yuan, is her son. He's been raised by his father, Lin Han. He also has a sister, Lin Aling, who was crippled in a car accident. My investigation suggests the accident was orchestrated by the imperial family as well." Commander Liu let out a cold snort. "The head of that family is getting senile, obsessed with bloodline purity to the point of harming his own daughter. They really think they're gods among men." "What did you say the boy's name was?" "Lin Yuan." "Keep a close eye on him," the commander ordered. "Don't let the dark sect find him. If they recruit someone with devouring abilities, he'll become a disaster for society." "Understood. Should we intervene in his training? That kind of power can easily lead someone down a dark path." "No," Liu said firmly. "A transcendent must walk his own path. Power is just a tool. It depends on the user. Just make sure the dark sect stays away. And if they do interfere, kill them," the commander said coldly. He was about to end the call, but paused. "Actually, change of plans. Intervene just a little. If he hits a life-or-death crisis, give him a hand. We can't let a talent like that die young. He could be a massive asset in the future. Besides, I want to see what happens when he finally faces the imperial family." Master Ma looked surprised. "Commander, the royals are incredibly powerful. Lin Yuan is just one kid. You don't understand the devouring constitution, Ma. If Lin Yuan actually grows to his full potential, the imperial family might not just suffer. They might cease to exist. Now go. Watch him, but don't step in unless it's absolutely necessary." The call cut out. Master Ma stood in the quiet office, whispering to himself. A devouring constitution, to be valued this highly by the commander. Just what are you capable of, Lin Yuan? I knew Commander Liu well enough to know he didn't hand out his attention easily. Usually, even the top geniuses from the elite martial arts academies barely earned a glance from him. But for me, he was making an exception. Master Ma took the commander's orders seriously and immediately assigned his men to keep a close watch on my family, ready to report any trouble the moment it surfaced. Time slipped by. By the time evening rolled around, my father, Feng Fu, had finished his work and started cooking dinner for us. I had spent the entire afternoon holed up in my room. I split my time between studying and trying to digest the lingering will of the golden-winged great Peng. It was an intense process. As I meditated, I felt myself transforming into that ancient bird, soaring through the desolate skies of the wilderness and tearing through ferocious beasts. I was absorbing its instincts. My body felt lighter, my reflexes sharper, and my overall agility reached a level I'd never felt before. The excitement was buzzing under my skin. I had a gut feeling that once I fully integrated the Peng's will, I would undergo a complete metamorphosis. At dinner, my father dropped some news. Our old family friend, Uncle Yi, had called. He wanted us to come over to his place for a meal tomorrow. Uncle Yi had been my father's brother-in-arms back in the day. They had survived life-and-death situations together. He was also a transcendent. My sister, Fong Ling, and I didn't object. Honestly, our family probably wouldn't have survived this long without the Yi family's support. We were close. The next morning at 10:30, we headed out. Since we lived in an old building in the urban village, there was no elevator. My father and I had to carry Fong Ling and her wheelchair down the narrow stairs step by step. We loaded her into my father's old cargo van. Lin Yuan, my father said, gripping the steering wheel as we started the drive. You seemed stronger today. Lifting Ling felt a lot easier than usual. I hesitated. I wasn't ready to tell him about the great pung or the pressure points I'd forced open. Maybe it's just the extra training in gym class lately. I lied. He nodded, satisfied. Keep at it. Even if you don't make it into a martial arts academy, you still need a certain level of strength for the standard universities. I know, Dad. Let's go. We drove for about an hour, leaving the grime of the village behind for a luxury residential district. The difference was night and day. The buildings were modern, the greenery was lush, and the air felt cleaner. This was where the wealthy lived. Uncle Yi, or Yi Hongyu, held a decent position in the local government, and his wife, Lin Muzi, was a manager at a large corporation. Together, they made enough to afford a beautiful 148 square meter apartment on the 16th floor. We parked the van and made our way up. I pressed the doorbell, and a moment later, the door swung open. A girl stepped out. It was Yi Xiaoxian. To say she was beautiful would be an understatement. She was stunning, standing 5'9" with a grace that felt almost otherworldly. She was my childhood friend. We had grown up together, and back then, she used to follow me everywhere like a shadow, calling me Brother Lin Yuan over and over. That changed during our first year of high school. She had awakened an incredible talent for transcendence and was scouted by Tianxing Academy, the most prestigious martial arts school in the country. Her admission was legendary in our city. Usually, you need to be at the chi sensing realm just to apply, and even then, the competition is so cutthroat that most don't make it unless they've reached the second stage, the body refining realm. Breaking through to body refining is 10 times harder than chi sensing. Maybe 1 in 100 people pull it off within a decade. But Xiaoxian was different. She was admitted based on raw talent alone, before she had even reached the chi sensing realm. The academy leaders had been so stunned by her potential that they sent professors to recruit her personally. She had been away at the academy for nearly a year now. When she saw us standing there, she paused. Lin Yuan, Ling, Uncle, you're here. Her voice was flat. Her expression was cold, almost indifferent. We stood there, slightly stunned. The old Xiaoxian would have greeted us with a radiant smile and a warm hug. Now, she looked at us like we were strangers she happened to recognize. A year at Tianxing Academy had changed her. The silence grew awkward. Feng Ling, always sensitive to others' feelings, tried to break the ice. Sister Xiaoxian, you've become even prettier. Xiaoxian glanced down at Ling's wheelchair and her mangled legs. She gave a non-committal nod, her face remaining a mask of indifference. I saw Ling's small hands tighten on the armrests of her chair, her knuckles turning white. She could feel it too. The girl who used to protect her now looked at her with something like pity, or worse, annoyance. Xiaoxian, when did you get back? I asked, trying to force a smile. You didn't let us know. Yesterday, she said shortly. She stepped aside to let us in. Come in. I pushed Ling's wheelchair inside, feeling a knot of unease in my chest. Something was very wrong. As we entered the living room, I noticed a stranger sitting on the sofa. He looked to be about 20, dressed in a sharp, expensive suit with polished leather shoes. He was handsome and carried himself with the effortless arrogance of someone born into money. He had clearly come home with Xiaoxian. Looking at him, I started to understand why she was acting so distant. Feng Ling stared at the man, her eyes wide, sensing the shift in the room's gravity. I felt a sudden, sharp wave of disgust. I couldn't explain it. Maybe it was the way the stranger sat there, or the way the air in the room felt heavy and wrong. Before I could dwell on it, Yi Hongyu walked out of the kitchen. He had a wide smile on his face. He walked straight over to me and clapped a hand on my shoulder. Big nephew, you finally made it, he said, laughing. I nodded and forced a smile. Uncle Yi. Yi Hongyu and my father were like brothers. He treated me and my sister, Feng Ling, like his own blood. He turned his attention to Ling, his eyes softening. Ling, look at you. You've been looking much better lately. Seeing his familiar, warm face made Ling's tension vanish. She gave him a small, genuine smile. Thank you, Uncle Yi. Yi Hongyu patted her head gently, then moved toward my father, Feng Han. He pulled him into a brief, firm hug. Han, how have you been? Not bad, my father replied. Thanks to your help with the fruit shop, things are stable. Yi Hongyu laughed and shook his head. Don't talk about help between brothers. If it weren't for you back in the day, I wouldn't be where I am now. He slapped my father's shoulder again, grinning. Tonight, we drink. No excuses. Whatever you say, my father agreed. Yi Hongyu then turned toward the sofa, gesturing to the handsome stranger in the suit. Everyone, let me introduce you. This is Hua Tianyu. He's Xiaoshuan Senior at Tianxing Academy. He's here in Linqing for a mission, and Xiaoxian is acting as his assistant. My family froze. We were stunned. Tianxing Academy was the pinnacle. In our country, anyone who graduated from there had a guaranteed future. Even if a graduate was the ugliest person on earth, wealthy families would still fight to marry their daughters to them. Hua Tianyu saw the shock on our faces. A flicker of pride crossed his eyes, followed quickly by a trace of contempt. He had spent his life reading people. From our clothes and the way we spoke, he knew we were nobodies. We were poor, with no background and no power. If it weren't for Xiaoxian, people like us wouldn't even be allowed to breathe the same air as him. Still, he played the part of a refined gentleman. He stood up slowly and gave us a shallow nod. Hello, he said, his voice smooth and practiced. I'm Hua Tianyu. I'm Xiaoshuan Senior and her tutor. I've been taking care of her this past year, guiding her studies. He put a strange emphasis on the words, taking care. As he said it, his eyes locked onto mine. He was watching for a reaction. He wanted to see me flinch. I didn't give him the satisfaction. I just stared back, my face a mask of indifference. The room went quiet. The silence was heavy and uncomfortable. Yi Hongyu sensed the tension and quickly tried to break it. Come on, everyone sit down. Why are we all standing? He turned to Hua Tianyu. Tianyu, we appreciate everything you've done for Xiaoxian. But our Xiaoxian is an independent girl. I'm sure she can handle herself at school too, right? He glanced at his daughter, hoping for some support. Xiaoxian just gave a cold, non-committal nod. Yi Hongyu's smile faltered. He looked frustrated by her attitude. What's with that face? Go on, get some fruit and snacks for your Uncle Fong and your brother and sister. Xiaoxian didn't argue. She turned and walked toward the back room without a word. Yi Hongyu sat down and sighed, looking at my father with a bitter smile. She's been at the academy for a year, and her whole personality has changed. I don't know what they're teaching her there. Uncle, you shouldn't say that, Hua Tianyu interrupted. His tone was polite, but his words were sharp. Xiaoxian is incredibly talented. The teachers love her. She's usually very approachable. If she's acting cold today, it's probably because she saw someone, or something, that made her unhappy. He looked at my family as he spoke. The implication was loud and clear. He thought we were the problem. I doubt that, Yi Hongyu said, pushing back. She grew up with my nephew here. They used to play house together when they were kids. Our families are close. There's no reason for her to be unhappy. He was trying to fix the atmosphere, but he only made it worse. Hua Tianyu's expression soured. He didn't like hearing about playing house. He didn't like the idea of me having any history with her. Maybe it's just the stress of her first mission, Hua Tianyu said, his voice turning cold. A moment later, Xiaoxian returned with a tray of snacks and fruit. She set them on the table with robotic precision. Xiaoxian, sit over there by Fong Li, Yi Hongyu said, pointing to the spot next to me. Talk a bit. Xiaoxian looked at me, then looked at an empty chair further away. I'll just sit here, Dad. You haven't seen your brother Fong Li in a year. Yi Hongyu snapped, his patience wearing thin. Talk to him. Who knows when you'll see him again once you go back to school. I don't know what there is to talk about, Xiaoxian said flatly. Yi Hongyu looked like he was about to explode. He had invited us over to reconnect our families, but his daughter was pouring ice water on everything. Just then, his wife, Lin Muzi, walked out of the kitchen with a steaming dish. Hongyu, let it go. She just got home. She needs time to adjust. She turned to me with a kind smile. Big nephew, don't take it to heart. You know how girls are. They have their moods. It's fine, Auntie, I said. I grew up with her. I understand. Lin Muzi nodded, giving me an encouraging look. She still wanted this match to happen. Xiaoxian remained silent, but her mind was clearly elsewhere. She knew what her parents wanted. Once, she might have wanted it too. We were childhood friends. We knew everything about each other. But that was before. Now, she had awakened a powerful transcendent talent. She had seen the vastness of the world at Tianxing Academy. She was on a different level now. To her, the idea of marrying someone like me was beneath her. To her, our happy memories were just a burden from the past. It was a harsh reality, but it was the one she had chosen. Hua Tianyu watched the exchange, his eyes narrow. He waited for a gap in the conversation, then turned to Yi Hongyu with a fake, curious smile. Uncle, why don't you properly introduce these friends of yours? Yi Hongyu nodded quickly. Right. This is my brother, Fong Han. This is my nephew, Fong Li. And this is his sister, Fong Ling. Hua Tianyu nodded slowly, his gaze landing on me. He looked me up and down like I was a specimen under a microscope. I see, he said, his voice dripping with mock politeness. I understand now. So, Fong Li, Hua Tianyu said, his voice smooth and irritating. Which school are you attending? Lingchen First High, I replied shortly. He raised an eyebrow. Oh, so you're in the same school as Xiaoxian. You must be a senior then. Yes. It's May now, he continued, a fake smile plastered on his face. The college entrance exams are in June. Tell me, which martial arts academy are you planning to apply for? He stared at me, waiting. I knew exactly what he was doing. From the moment I walked in, he could tell I wasn't a transcendent. By bringing up the academy, he wanted to humiliate me. He wanted to show me that I wasn't in Xiaoshuan's league, that we belonged to two different worlds. The atmosphere in the living room turned cold. But I wasn't the same weak kid I used to be. I had looked a golden-winged great Peng in the eye and carved it open. If he thought a few words would scare me, he was a fool. I haven't filled my 120 pressure points yet, I said with a calm smile. I'm probably not suited for a martial arts academy. I'm leaning toward the Lingchen Liberal Arts College. Of course, miracles happen. Maybe I'll change my mind and go for the martial arts academy after all. Hua Tianyu let out a short, mocking laugh. Miracles? With only a month left? Don't be unrealistic. I'm older than you, so take some advice. Focus on the liberal arts college. If you do well, I can find you a job at my family's corporation after you graduate. I could make you a driver for one of our executives. He leaned back, looking pleased with himself. Don't look down on it. The pay is great. People beg for a chance like that. A driver's seat is too small for me, I said flatly. His smile vanished. You need self-awareness. In this world, if you can't become a transcendent, you should accept your fate. Those who don't end up broken and bloody. Eventually, they come crawling to people like us, wagging their tails for a scrap of food. If we're in a good mood, we give them something. If not, they just rot. He turned his gaze toward my sister, Fong Ling. Since you have no talent, I assume your sister doesn't either. Plus, she's a cripple. Honestly, when she graduates, she should work at one of my family's foot massage centers. My blood began to boil. She has a good face, he continued, his voice dripping with malice. I'll make her a top-tier technician. She can serve the elite. It's low status, sure, but she'll make 50,000 a month. If some rich guy takes a liking to that pale, melancholy look of hers, he might even keep her as a mistress. That's a shortcut to the top. I've heard some noble sons actually prefer girls who are broken. Fong Ling started to tremble. Her knuckles turned white as she gripped her wheelchair, her nails digging into her palms. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she was too afraid of him to speak. She just sat there, absorbing the insult. I felt a cold, sharp, killing intent rise in my chest. He could talk trash to me all day, but he crossed the line the moment he mentioned my sister. Who do you think you are? I hissed, glaring at him. You think coming from Tianxing Academy makes you a god? Shut your mouth. Don't get angry, Fong Li, he said, tilting his head. I'm doing you a favor. The truth hurts, but a poor man's dignity is worthless. If you weren't Xiaoshuan's friend, I wouldn't even offer this. You should be thanking me. I don't need your charity to survive, I said. He sighed, acting disappointed. Young and arrogant. You don't know how high the sky is. My words are a blessing, one you only receive because of Xiaoxian. Without her, you wouldn't even be allowed in the same room as me. And don't think I'm insulting your sister. She's a cripple with no skills. She's a waste. How else will she survive? Serving guests from a wheelchair is a great opportunity. Fong Ling couldn't take it anymore. She burst into tears, her voice shaking. Dad, I don't want to eat. Let's go. Please, let's just go. Hearing her cry snapped something inside me. I stood up so fast my chair nearly flipped. Shut the hell up. I roared at Hua Tianyu. Interesting, he said, standing up to face me. He looked at me like I was an ant he was about to crush. He seemed genuinely confused that a nobody like me had the guts to talk back. I see killing intent in your eyes. You want to kill me? I dropped that thought if I were you. You'd be dead before you even moved. Normal people need to know their place. Arrogant, I muttered, my hands balled into fists. I've been very polite, he countered. Under normal circumstances, lowlives like you wouldn't even have the right to speak to me. That's enough, Yi Hongyu shouted, slamming his hand on the table. He stood up, his face red with rage. Student Hua, you are no longer welcome in my home. Get out. Hua Tianyu blinked, surprised. Uncle Yi, I'm giving you a friendly warning. Xiaoxian is a top talent. You're a transcendent. There is no reason for a family like yours to be brothers with these bottom feeders. They aren't worthy. I said get out. Yi Hongyu barked. Hua Tianyu's expression soured. He didn't understand why the Yi family was protecting us. To him, the math didn't add up. Senior, Xiaoxian said, stepping in. She looked at Hua Tianyu and gestured toward the door. For my sake, why don't you go report to the government office first? Hua Tianyu took a deep breath, calming himself. He wouldn't listen to my uncle, but he would listen to her. Fine. For you, Xiaoxian. I'll head out. He turned and walked toward the door. Xiaoxian followed him, telling her father she would see him out. Once they were gone, the tension in the room broke. Yi Hongyu rushed over to Fong Ling, kneeling down and handing her a tissue. Ling, I'm so sorry, he said gently, his voice full of regret. I had no idea Xiaoxian was bringing someone like that home. Uncle Yi had already kicked that arrogant jerk out, but the air in the room was still heavy. My aunt, Lin Muzi, finally came out of the kitchen. She had been listening the whole time, staying back so she wouldn't make the situation worse by losing her temper. But this was her home. Seeing a senior act like a king in her living room had clearly pushed her to the limit. She walked over to Fong Ling and pulled her close. Don't cry, Ling, she said softly. We see him for what he is now. He might be a transcendent, but his character is trash. Don't lower yourself to his level. My father, Fong Han, stepped in too. He was talking nonsense. Ling, ignore it. We have hands. We can earn our own way without his charity. I promise you, you're going to have a great life. You're going to be an amazing woman. Your brother and I are right here. Fong Ling's sobbing finally slowed down as my father stroked her hair. The tension began to bleed out of the room. My aunt started bringing out the food, trying to get things back to normal. Downstairs, Yi Xiaoxian was seeing Hua Tianyu out. Senior, I'm sorry about that, she said quietly. It's fine, he replied, waving it off. For your sake, I won't hold it against those people. But Xiaoxian, you should really stop associating with them. It's beneath you. You should talk to your father about it. There's no need, she said, her voice firm. My father and Uncle Fong are brothers. If Uncle Fong hadn't sacrificed himself back then, my father wouldn't even be alive. You should go report to the government office now. We'll handle our own family business. She was drawing a line. She was telling him that the bond between our families wasn't something he could interfere with. Hua Tianyu's eyes flickered. He clearly hadn't realized the history went that deep. Fine, he muttered. It's your private business. I'll go. I'll see you at the academy the day after tomorrow. He walked away toward the complex entrance. Yi Xiaoxian watched him go, her face a mask of indifference, but I could tell her mind was a mess. When she came back upstairs, dinner had started. The meal was awkward. Uncle Yi and Aunt Lin kept trying to get Xiaoxian to talk to me, but she had retreated back into her shell. She was cold, distant, and barely said a word. It was obvious to everyone that a year at Tianxing Academy had changed her. She was a transcendent now, and the warmth she once had for my family was gone. As evening fell, it was time for us to head home. Before we left, Uncle Yi pulled me into his bedroom. He opened a safe by his bed and took out 2 dark brown bottles. Lin Yuan, he said, looking me in the eye. The college entrance exams are coming up. I prepared these 2 bottles of super gene support liquid for you. Take them. Use them to get a better score in the first round of the strength test. In our country, every student has to take the strength test, whether they want to be a warrior or a scholar. For the martial arts academy, it's the core requirement. For cultural colleges, it's a massive bonus to your total score. I tried to push them back. Uncle Yi, I can't. These are way too expensive. I knew what these were. Even the cheapest, lowest-grade gene medicine cost at least 1.5 million a bottle. These two were easily worth 3 million. Even for a wealthy family like the Yes, 3 million was a fortune, especially with Xiaoshuan's tuition to pay. What are you saying? Uncle Yi barked, though his eyes were kind. Am I your uncle or not? You are, I whispered. Then take them. Get a good grade. Pick a good major. You're the one who has to take care of your family's future. You don't want Ling to live a hard life, do you? His words hit me right in the heart. I wanted to be a transcendent. I wanted to give my family a better life. I wanted my sister to walk again. I needed strength. Thank you, Uncle Yi, I said, gripping the bottles. I won't let you down. That's my boy, he said, clapping me on the shoulder. Then he lowered his voice. As for Xiaoxian, be patient with her. Give her some time. I nodded, but I didn't say anything. My gut told me that things between Xiaoxian and me would never be the same. Later that night, I sat on my bed back at home. I looked at the two bottles in my hand. I wasn't going to drink them, not yet. I was going to use my system to refine them first. I activated the fusion function. The two bottles vanished from my hands instantly. Asterisk ding. Fusing Super Gene Medicine plus Super Gene Medicine. Success. Obtained. Primal Void Gene Medicine. Asterisk. Effect. Increases Qi absorption efficiency by 1000% upon consumption. A single bottle appeared before me, glowing with a faint, pulsing golden light. I didn't hesitate. I twisted the cap and downed it. My body turned scorching hot. My skin flushed deep red. I felt like a massive magnet, violently pulling the spiritual energy from the air around me. I immediately began circulating the myriad devouring technique. The technique worked perfectly. My absorption speed jumped another 30%, from 1000% to 1300%. I poured everything into it. Spiritual energy flooded my body, slamming into my pressure points and filling them one by one. My strength was skyrocketing. While I was breaking through, across town at the Golden Tripod nightclub, things were much darker. Chun Ah-san, the boss, sat on a leather sofa in a luxury suite. He was listening to a report about the disappearance of his enforcer, Monkey. Boss, the subordinate said, bowing low. We tracked him to an alleyway where he cornered that student. After that, he vanished. We found his phone, but that's it. It's like he was erased from the earth. The student? Chinasan asked, his voice low. His name is Lin Yuan. His family runs a small fruit shop. Here's the weird part. The student didn't have a scratch on him when he got home. But there was blood in that alley. It's safe to say Monkey failed. Whatever happened to him, Lin Yuan is at the center of it. The subordinate paused, then added. Also, we checked our records. We've had trouble with that family shop before. They refused to pay protection money in the past. The subordinate explained that they used to harass the family's fruit shop, but a man from the government named Yi Hongyu had intervened and chased them off. Since then, they hadn't collected a dime in protection money from them. Shinasan stood up, his eyes turning cold. He realized that if Monkey had vanished, it was almost certainly at the hands of this student, Lin Yuan. The history between them only added fuel to the fire. They had suffered a humiliating loss because of the family's government connections in the past, and Shinasan wasn't about to let it happen again. He has a background, but don't I have one too? Shinasan sneered. He wasn't just looking for revenge for Monkey. He was still obsessed with the king-level beast meat he believed Lin Yuan was hiding. He figured Lin Yuan hadn't had time to sell it yet. He also guessed that Lin Yuan had likely stepped onto the path of a transcendent, which would explain how he overpowered Monkey. However, Chun Ah-sin wasn't worried. He was far stronger than Monkey. Over the years, he had poured his illegal earnings into gene injections, successfully opening over 50 pressure points. With a physical strength of 280 pounds, he was a seasoned fighter. He assumed a kid from the slums, no matter how talented, couldn't have progressed very far yet. Get the boys ready, Chun Ah-sin ordered. We're kidnapping his father, Lin Fu, tomorrow morning. I want a private chat with Lin Yuan. Pick a deserted factory and bring some gasoline. You know what to do. The next morning, my cultivation session finally came to an end. The effects of the gene essence medicine had worn off, and my sensitivity to spiritual energy plummeted. Even with my myriad devouring technique, the absorption rate felt painfully slow. It made me realize why transcendents were always either geniuses or incredibly rich. Without those two things, lighting up all 120 pressure points was nearly impossible. I checked my progress. After a full night of cultivation, I had filled 30 more pressure points. Combined with the 40 from before, I now had 70 points active. I was more than halfway to the goal. My strength had surged from 250 pounds to 325. My confidence for the Martial Arts Academy entrance exam was at an all-time high. I realized then that my classmate, Hua Tianyu, had been right about one thing. In this world, if you aren't a transcendent, you're just a footstool for those who are. You either climb the ladder or get crushed under it. Even my father's shop only survived because of Uncle Ye's influence. I was determined to change my family's fate. It was Saturday, and my father had left early to open the fruit shop, leaving me at home with my younger sister, Lin Anling. I was in the middle of making breakfast when her phone rang. The caller ID said Dad. I picked it up, but the voice on the other end was a complete stranger's. "Is this Lin Yuan?" the man asked. "Who are you?" I demanded, my heart sinking. "Chen Ah-san. And I have your father. Want to hear him say hello?" My father's voice came through the speaker, frantic. "Call the authorities. Find your Uncle Yi." A muffled groan of pain followed, like he'd been struck. "What do you want, Chen Ah-san?" I growled. "Your dad has a big mouth, so I gave him a lesson. Don't even think about calling the police. If I see a badge, your dad dies instantly. Come alone to the abandoned coking plant on the south side of the city. And bring that thing I want. You know what it is. You have 1 hour, or you can start picking out a coffin for him." The line went dead. My face went pale. I knew Chen Ah-san was a ruthless thug from Monkey's memories. He wasn't bluffing about killing my father. I couldn't risk calling for help. I had to settle this myself, once and for all. "Brother, what happened to Dad?" Anling asked, her voice trembling. "Don't worry," I lied, trying to look calm. "It's just a misunderstanding over some money. Chen Ah-san is just a local thug looking for a payday. I'll go talk to him and bring Dad home." I grabbed the empty box and the empty medicine bottle from my room. I needed them as bait. I told Anling to stay home and promised we'd be back soon. Then, I caught a taxi to the south side. I got off a mile away from the plant, not wanting to spook them. The area was overgrown with weeds and completely deserted. As I walked into the ruins of the factory, a man in a black suit waved me over. I followed him to a dusty hall on the second floor. My father was there, tied to a chair with his mouth taped shut. 5 men in suits surrounded him. Their leader, Chen Ah-san, sat nearby with a thick beard and a gleaming machete resting against his chair. My father struggled in his bonds, trying to scream through the tape for me to run. Chen Ah-san started clapping slowly. "You've got guts, kid. Coming here, all alone. I thought for sure you'd call the cops, so I'd have to kill him." "I'm here," I said coldly. "Let my father go." "Let him go? Why would I do that?" Chen Ah-san laughed. "I still don't know what happened to my boy, Monkey, and I haven't seen my prize yet." I held up the empty bottle, moving as if I were about to smash it on the ground. "Let him go, or you'll never get this. You know how much it's worth." Chen Ah-san's eyes widened, his greed finally showing. Chen Ah-san's face went pale instantly. He knew exactly what was in that bottle, the heart blood of a king-level beast. It was worth a fortune. If I smashed it here, he'd lose everything. "Fine," he shouted, his voice tight. "You've got guts, kid. Release him." One of the thugs cut the ropes around my father's chest and ripped the tape off his mouth. My father didn't hesitate. He scrambled over to me, grabbing my hand with trembling fingers. "Run, Lin Yuan," he urged, his voice raspy. "Run now? These people are dangerous. This isn't just about some medicine." Chen Ah-san cracked his neck, a cold sneer spreading across his face. "Run? Neither of you is going anywhere." I didn't budge. I looked at my father and spoke calmly. "Dad, you go first. I'm staying here." "Son, are you crazy?" My father's eyes were wide with panic. I looked him in the eye and smiled. "Trust me." "How can I trust you?" he cried. I squeezed his hand. I didn't just hold it. I let him feel the raw strength I now possessed. My grip tightened with a force far beyond any normal human, at least 250 pounds of pressure. My father's expression shifted from terror to pure shock. He felt it. He realized his son had awakened a transcendent talent. "Go, Dad," I said firmly. He looked like he wanted to say 1,000 things, but he just nodded, turned, and ran down the stairs. He didn't go far, though. I could tell he was hiding in the tall weeds outside the factory, watching, waiting to see what would happen to me. Upstairs, Shin Asen stared me down. Your old man is gone. Now, put the bottle and the box down. I set them on the floor beside me. Good, Shin Asen said, laughing. Now let's talk about something else. If you answer correctly, maybe I'll let you live. Where's Monkey? The guy I sent to collect from you. He's my brother. I tilted my head. Monkey? He's right here. Shin Asen frowned, confused. What? I focused my mind, tapping into my spatial ring. In a flash of light, Monkey's cold, stiff corpse appeared out of thin air, thudding onto the dusty floor between us. The room went silent. Shin Asen recoiled, his eyes bulging. His 5 lackeys stood there, mouths agape, frozen in shock. A spatial storage device. Shin Asen whispered, his voice trembling with a new kind of intensity. He had heard of these things. Only the most powerful transcendents owned them. They were worth more than any beast blood. A wave of pure, unadulterated greed washed over him. He didn't care about Monkey anymore. He didn't even care about the pung meat. If he killed me and took that ring, he could sell it on the black market and live like a king. You really do have one. Shin Asen grinned, his teeth yellow and jagged. I want it. Once I kill you and avenge my brother, that ring is mine. I'll never have to take orders from anyone again. He stood up, grabbing a heavy alloy machete from beside his chair. It was a wicked blade, 30 centimeters long and gleaming with a cold light. His men backed away, forming a circle around us, smirking. They thought I was a dead man walking. I didn't say a word. I reached into my spatial storage and pulled out the dagger I had taken from Monkey. Young and arrogant, Shin Asen mocked. You aren't even nervous. Is that your transcendent talent giving you all this confidence? I'm going to tear that confidence into pieces. I don't need to be nervous, I said coldly. I'm just going to kill you. He was a threat to my family. He had kidnapped my father. In my world, people like him didn't get second chances. You've got balls, kid. Shin Asen roared. He lunged at me, swinging the machete. I gripped my dagger, my eyes tracking his every move like a predator watching its prey. We collided in a cloud of dust. As he got within 5 feet, Shin Asen suddenly planted his foot and swept his leg across the floor, kicking a massive cloud of grit and dirt directly into my face. Dirty tricks, kid. Die, he screamed. My vision went dark as the dust hit my eyes. I closed them instantly. Sensing the opening, Shin Asen poured all his strength, nearly 400 pounds of force, into a vertical cleave aimed straight for my skull. But I wasn't the same person I was yesterday. The instincts of the golden-winged great Pung were etched into my soul. I didn't need to see. I heard the whistle of the blade cutting the air. I kicked off the ground, leaping backward with unnatural grace. The machete slammed into the floor where my head had been a split second before. Shin Asen gasped. He had used this trick to kill dozens of opponents. It was supposed to be a guaranteed hit. He didn't give me time to breathe, though. He rushed forward again, swinging with everything he had. If he wanted to play with power, I'd show him power. I channeled my energy, combining my base strength with the Ping's explosive techniques. I didn't just swing back. I unleashed 500 pounds of force. Clang! The dagger met the machete in a shower of sparks. The impact was so violent that the web of skin between Shin Asen's thumb and forefinger tore open. The machete flew out of his hand, clattering across the room. What? Shin Asen screamed, his face twisted in disbelief. He was at the peak of his power, halfway to the chi-sensing realm, and I had just disarmed him with a single blow. His lackeys were panicking, whispering among themselves. Their boss was losing to a student. Shin Asen was a veteran fighter, though. He recovered quickly, throwing a desperate roundhouse kick to try and regain his footing. But I was faster. Before his leg could even fully extend, I saw the opening. I swung my leg in a blur of motion. Too slow, I thought. Shin Asen's eyes widened as my shadow loomed over him. Shin Asen was stunned by my speed. He finally realized that my combat instincts were far superior to his. I didn't give him a chance to recover. Before he could even brace himself, my leg connected squarely with his abdomen. He let out a muffled groan and sprayed a mouthful of blood as his body was sent flying backward. Save the boss, one of his lackeys screamed. The remaining thugs snapped out of their shock and rushed me all at once. I knew if I got bogged down fighting these small fry, China-san would have time to catch his breath. In a life-and-death struggle, any delay could be fatal. I couldn't let that happen. As China-san was still midair, I focused all my strength. I unleashed 500 pounds of force and hurled my dagger with everything I had. The blade whistled through the air like a shrieking arrow. It buried itself deep into Chun-Asan's throat. Blood gushed out in a dark torrent. He slammed into the ground, gasping and choking, his eyes wide with disbelief. He couldn't understand how he, a veteran of the streets, had lost so easily. His breathing grew shallow, his life fading fast. The 5 lackeys were closing in on me now. I didn't panic. I slammed my foot onto the hilt of the machete lying on the ground, popping it into the air. I caught it in one fluid motion and charged the man on my left. I swung the blade in a cold arc toward his neck. A wet thud followed. He didn't even have time to raise his hands before his throat was slit. He collapsed into the dirt, blood spraying everywhere. I didn't stop to look. My eyes felt cold, my heart steady. I spun around and lunged at the next target. I countered with a lethal slash to his vitals. Then there were 3. I moved through them like a tiger among sheep. They weren't even worth a single exchange. One by one, they fell. Within seconds, the alley was silent, and 5 more bodies lay cooling in pools of blood. I walked over to China-san. He was still twitching, a tiny spark of life left in his eyes. "Do I still look nervous to you?" I asked quietly. "Don't worry. You'll be reuniting with your buddy monkey very soon. No need to thank me." Chun-Asan's eyes bulged with rage. He struggled to find his voice, hissing through the blood. You won't die a peaceful death." I grinned. "You're wrong again. That's your fate, not mine." I placed my hand firmly on his chest and activated the myriad devouring technique. I felt his essence, his very soul, being ripped away. His body convulsed violently as I drained him dry. A surge of spiritual energy flowed into me, filling 40% of my 71st pressure point. Along with the power came his memories. I saw the dark things he'd done, the lives he'd taken, and most importantly, I saw his boss, Lu Huai. I was genuinely surprised. Lu Huai was a classmate of mine, a spoiled rich kid from the Fu family. He always acted like a pampered brat, not someone who commanded a squad of killers. So, I just picked a fight with Lu Huai, I muttered to myself. It was a bit annoying. I had wanted to settle this quietly, but now I had a classmate involved. I shook my head. It didn't matter. If Lu Huai was smart, he'd stay away. This grudge was between me and China-san. If he wasn't smart, well, I wouldn't hold back. I was aiming for the transcendent realm. Once I reached the chi-sensing realm, even the wealthy Lu family wouldn't be able to touch me. I searched China-san's body and found his phone. Using his memories, I accessed his accounts. He had over 2.5 million yuan stored in the Merchant Alliance Bank. I logged into the app and transferred every cent, 2.58 million, into my own account. Combined with my meager savings, I was suddenly sitting on a fortune. I tried to devour the essence of the 5 lackeys, but they were useless. No spiritual energy, just messy memories of drinking, fighting, and bullying the weak. They were broke, too. I only managed to scrape 5,000 yuan from their combined accounts. I looked over at the canisters of gasoline nearby and let out a cold laugh. China-san had brought this to burn my body and my father's. He had planned to kill me, then go back and finish off my dad. I dragged the 7 corpses into a pile, drenched them in gasoline, and flicked a lighter. The flames roared to life, hungrily consuming the evidence. Soon, there would be nothing left but ash. I tossed the lighter into the fire and walked away from the abandoned plant. I found my father, Fong Fu, hiding in the tall grass near the road. He rushed toward me the moment he saw me, his face pale with worry. "Son, are you okay? Did those men hurt you?" I stopped, surprised to see him. "Dad, you didn't leave?" "I couldn't just leave you," he panted, gripping my shoulders. "What happened? Did you give them what they wanted? Did they agree to let us go?" I shook my head. "No, they didn't." "Then, how did you get out?" "I killed them all," I said flatly. My father stared at me, his jaw dropping. He looked at me like I was a stranger. In his eyes, I was just a student who had never even killed a chicken. To hear me say I had wiped out China-san's gang sounded like a joke. But then he remembered the strength I had shown him earlier. I was a transcendent now. You really killed them? All 6 of them, I confirmed. The bodies are burning right now. He took a sharp breath, looking me up and down. He couldn't believe how calm I was. To kill 6 men and burn the evidence without breaking a sweat, it was cold. Dad, I said, my voice devoid of emotion. Things have changed. I've awakened my talent. I've already charged 70 pressure points. I'm only 50 away from qualifying for the Martial Arts Academy. I looked him in the eye. Ever since I awakened, my personality has shifted. I have instincts now, combat instincts. To be honest, killing them didn't make me feel anything. It was like slaughtering livestock. But I'm not wrong. If I hadn't killed them, they would have killed us. I had no choice. I didn't tell him everything. The system and the memories of the Great Pung were secrets I had to keep. When did this happen? He asked, his mind still reeling. About 2 months ago. 2 months. He was stunned. You filled 70 points in 2 months. He was speechless. In this world, the older you got, the harder it was to awaken. Most people peaked between 10 and 15. At 17, for me to awaken and progress this fast was unheard of. I wasn't just a student anymore. I was something else entirely. I was already 17, turning 18 by the end of the year. Usually, if you haven't awakened a powerful transcendent talent by this age, the odds of it ever happening are near zero. It took a long time for my father, Fong Han, to calm down. When he finally did, a look of immense pride washed over his face. Good. Very good, he said, beaming. I'd expect nothing less from my own blood. I rolled my eyes. Right. Don't look at me like that, he chuckled. Your old man was a transcendent once. Your mother was, too. I froze, staring at him. In my memory, my mother had passed away from a long illness when I was very young. A flash of panic crossed my father's eyes. He quickly tried to explain. She was a transcendent, but she suffered a severe injury. It couldn't be treated, and eventually, she succumbed to the illness. He paused, his voice dropping. Back then, to save you, Uncle Yi and I were also badly hurt. My blood energy declined, and I fell from the transcendent body refinement realm. We were so young then. I felt a flicker of doubt. Something about his story felt off, but I couldn't pin down exactly what it was. Why didn't you or Uncle Yi ever tell me this? I asked. It's all old news, he sighed. It happened over 10 years ago. Why bring up the past? But hearing that you've awakened such a strong talent today, it makes me happy. Truly. He looked at me closely. Are you sure you feel nothing after killing Chen Asan and his men? I shook my head. Nothing at all. They deserve to die. Good, he said, his eyes lighting up. I like that attitude. It reminds me of myself when I was younger. If someone crosses you, you don't let them walk away. It's a pity I'm a washout now. Otherwise, I could have crushed those bugs in a second. His expression darkened with a touch of helplessness. The path of a transcendent requires massive resources. If I still had my strength, I could have pushed you into the chi-sensing realm immediately. Now, you only have a month until the college entrance exams. It's too tight. Even with your talent, you might not break through in time. You might have to repeat a year. He sighed deeply. But time is the most precious thing for a transcendent. Delaying for a year could lower your ultimate ceiling. There are 10 realms for transcendence. The first is chi sensing, followed by body refinement, bone building, and others all the way up to the spirit realm. Every step is a mountain to climb. Losing a year of cultivation is an immeasurable loss. Don't worry, Dad, I said firmly. 1 month is enough. Once I fill out my application for the Martial Arts Academy at school, I'm joining the mercenaries. I'll head into the wilderness, hunt beasts, and trade them for resources. I'll break into the chi-sensing realm on my own. My father looked at me, seeing his younger self in my eyes, bold, decisive, and willing to take risks for a better future. The life of a mercenary is dangerous, he warned. But if you want to be a transcendent, you can't live a quiet life. I'm curious, though. You were at the second realm back then. How did you get hurt so badly? The wilderness has monsters you can't even imagine, he replied. Plenty of transcendents die there every year. Don't look at the ones living in luxury and think it's easy. Rewards and responsibilities go hand in hand. The more the country gives you, the more you have to give back. Go for it, son. Make me proud. Just watch me, I said with a smile. We left the overgrown ruins and walked back to the main road. It was a long trek before we reached civilization and caught a ride home. When we walked through the door, my sister, Fong Ling, saw the bruises on my father's face. Her eyes filled with worry. "Dad, brother, what happened?" I saw how tense she was. I knelt down in front of her and spoke softly. "We're fine. Dad just has a few scratches. It's nothing." "What about China-san?" she whispered, her eyes wide. "It's over," I said, forcing a smile. "He's gone. He won't bother us ever again." "Really?" she asked cautiously. She didn't really know who he was or how much power he had. To her, he was just a man who caused trouble for our family. "I wouldn't lie to you," I said. "He got what he wanted and left. It was all just a big misunderstanding." I was technically telling the truth. He had left, permanently. My father chimed in, reassuring her until she finally relaxed and managed a small smile. After a quick lunch, my sister went to her room to draw. I pulled my father into the bedroom. "Dad, I forgot to tell you something. After I beat China-san, I squeezed him for his assets. I got 2.58 million. What should we do with it?" My father stared at me, stunned. "You extorted him for 2 million, and then you killed him anyway?" "I told him if he didn't pay, I'd kill him," I said, my voice steady. "He transferred the money to my account, and then I killed him to make sure he couldn't come back for revenge." I lied with practiced ease. My father stood there for a moment, speechless. "You're cold, kid. You don't leave any loose ends." I rubbed the back of my head, unsure of what to say. He suddenly laughed and slapped my shoulder. "I'm not blaming you. You really are my son. You're just like I was. Having a heart like that isn't a bad thing. Even normal people fight over everything. At the transcendent level, it's even more dangerous. Promise me one thing, son." "What is it?" His face turned deadly serious. "If you ever get into a conflict with another transcendent, if it's a real grudge, and you get the chance, kill them. Don't show mercy. If you do, the trouble will never end." I realized my father must have been a ruthless man in his prime. Here I was, not even a student at the academy yet, and he was already teaching me how to pull weeds out by the roots. But he was right. Being kind to an enemy is being cruel to yourself. One mistake could cost my family their lives. "I understand," I nodded. "Now about the money. 2 or 3 million isn't much in the long run. I thought about buying gene medicine, but it would only buy one low-grade bottle. It's not worth it. Oh, by the way, Uncle Yi gave me 2 bottles of super gene medicine." My father's eyes nearly popped out of his head. "Super gene medicine? Do you have any idea how much those cost?" "I figured you'd know the market better than me," I said. "Old Yi really put everything on the line for you," my father whispered. "Those go for 3 million a bottle. That's 6 million total. He must have been scraping by, probably even taking resources meant for his own daughter to give to you. Son, you have to remember this debt. No matter how strong you get, a man of the Fong family never forgets a kindness." "I know, Dad," I said. "I won't forget. If you ever get too arrogant, kid, I'll be the one to knock you down myself," my father warned, though there was a hint of pride in his eyes. "As for the money, don't waste it on low-grade gene medicine. The cheap stuff has limited effects and won't be enough to help you break through to the chi-sensing realm before the college entrance exams." He leaned back, thinking. "You mentioned joining a mercenary group, right? Use the money to buy proper equipment instead. It'll improve your survival chances in the wilderness. Good gear isn't cheap. Go down to the mercenary hall, ask around, and pick out a set that fits you." He paused, then added, "Also, transfer 200,000 to me. I want to renovate the fruit shop and rent the space next door. We can expand the business and bring in more income for the family." "Sure, Dad. Let's do it your way," I agreed. I pulled out my phone, logged into the Chamber of Commerce Union Bank app, and sent him the money. My remaining balance sat at a little over 2.38 million. "It's done. Check your phone." A moment later, his phone chimed with the notification. "Got it," he said, nodding. We chatted for a while longer before he headed back to work at the shop. I went up to my room, closing the door to focus on organizing the chaotic flood of memories from the golden-winged Great Pong. That evening, my father knocked on my door with a message. Uncle Yi had called. He wanted me to pick up his daughter, Yi Xiaoxian, at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning and drive her to the airport. Uncle Yi was busy with official business and couldn't get away, and he didn't want her going alone. Even though Xiaoxian had been acting cold lately, Our families were still close. I didn't hesitate to say yes. The next morning, I was up by 6:30. I grabbed the keys to our old delivery van and headed toward the Yi family's neighborhood. I pulled up in front of Building 10 at 10 minutes to 8. I saw Xiaoxian immediately, but she wasn't alone. A guy was standing next to her, talking her ear off. He looked familiar. As I rolled closer, Xiaoxian caught sight of the van. She recognized the license plate and knew I was there. Without a word to the guy, she adjusted her bag and started walking toward me. "Senior, don't go yet," the guy called out, scurrying after her. "My cousin sent me to pick you up." "No need. My ride is here," Xiaoxian replied. Her voice was icy and filled with annoyance. I recognized him now. His name was Lu Huai, a distant cousin of Hua Tianyu. Apparently, he'd been waiting for her all morning, trying to play the part of the attentive gentleman. Xiaoxian clearly wasn't buying it. She realized Hua Tianyu was monitoring her movements, and it was making her furious. She was the greatest genius Lin City High had seen in a century, a top recruit for Tianxing Academy. She wasn't some possession for Hua Tianyu to keep tabs on. The more Lu Huai tried to flatter her, the more she loathed him. She ignored his groveling and stopped by my passenger window. "What took you so long?" she asked. I could see she was in a bad mood. "Traffic was a mess," I said. "Otherwise, I would have been here 10 minutes early." "Lin Yuan." I looked past her and saw Lu Huai staring at me, his face twisting in realization. This was the guy who technically owned the thugs I had dealt with yesterday. Chen Ah-san and his crew were his people. Lu Huai came from a wealthy family, but he lacked talent. Even with all the resources his parents threw at him, he hadn't even opened 20 pressure points. Still, his family's money made him popular at school, even more popular than someone like Yao Qingxue. "What are you doing here?" Lu Huai demanded. We had been in the same class for 3 years, but he had never once looked me in the eye. To him, I was beneath notice. "Picking up Xiaoxian," I said calmly. Lu Huai seemed to remember that our families were close, but then he looked at my beat-up delivery van and laughed. His eyes were full of disdain. "You're picking her up in this? Do you even know who she is? She's a once-in-a-century genius. A transcendent, a star student of Tianxing Academy. Using a junker like this to pick her up is an insult." He pointed toward the curb where a sleek, black Lamborghini was parked. It was all sharp lines and expensive paint. "That is the kind of car a senior should be sitting in. Get this trash out of here. Honestly, I'm embarrassed to even call you a classmate. You're a disgrace." He reached out to grab Xiaoxuan's sleeve. "Senior, come on. My car is the only one that matches your status. Taking a bread van to the airport? Think of the embarrassment." Xiaoxian pulled her arm away with a sharp flick. "Where I choose to sit is my business. It has nothing to do with you." "Wait, it does," Lu Huai stammered. "It matters to my cousin, Tianyu. He told me to come." "Look, I know I'm not on your level, but you have to at least give my cousin some face, right?" I sat in the driver's seat, surprised. I hadn't realized Lu Huai and Hua Tianyu were related. Xiaoxuan's face turned as cold as frost. She turned her head slowly to look at Lu Huai. "Are you threatening me?" Suddenly, an invisible, crushing pressure radiated from her. The air grew heavy and murderous. Lu Huai began to tremble. In his eyes, Xiaoxian was no longer a beautiful girl. She was a terrifying beast in human skin. He finally realized his mistake. Hua Tianyu could talk to her as an equal, but he couldn't. If she decided to kill him right here, the authorities wouldn't even blink. A transcendent status was absolute. "Senior, let's talk. Let's just talk," Lu Huai stammered, his face pale with terror. "I didn't mean it. My cousin he just cares about you. I was just worried." Xiaoxian withdrew her aura. "Get lost." Lu Huai scrambled back, standing silently to the side like a scolded dog. Xiaoxian opened the passenger door and climbed into the van. "Drive," she said. "You got it." I floored the accelerator, but not before shooting Lu Huai a mocking grin. I made sure he saw it. The look that said my old van was worth more than his supercar any day. Lu Huai looked like he was going to explode with rage, but he didn't dare move until we were out of sight. Once we turned the corner, he stuck up his middle finger and started screaming curses at the road. Then, shaking, he pulled out his phone and called Hua Tianyu. "Did you pick her up?" Hua Tianyu's voice came through the line. "Cousin," Lu Huai whined. his voice full of fake grievance. She wouldn't come. She chose to ride in that poor kid Lin Yuan's delivery van instead of my Lamborghini. It's all his fault. If he hadn't shown up to mess things up, I would have had her in the car for sure. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Lin Yuan is a nobody, Hua Tianyu said finally. A normal person destined for a mediocre life. She's likely just being sentimental about the past. Maybe it was his father's orders, or maybe it was just because he was stuck with me. But Lu Huai didn't mention a word about how Xiaoxian had just snapped at him. He probably didn't want Hua Tianyu to think he was incompetent. Cousin, Lu Huai whined into his phone. What should I do now? Follow them. Hua Tianyu's voice was cold. Wait until he drops her off. Then, give Lin Yuan a warning. Tell him to stay away from her. If he doesn't, the consequences won't be something a nobody like him can handle. Understood, cousin. I'll make sure the kid learns some manners. The call ended. Lu Huai looked like he'd just received a royal decree. He hopped back into his supercar and floored it, chasing after my old van. Of course, a Lamborghini is faster than a delivery vehicle. Within minutes, he was glued to my rear bumper like a piece of chewed-up gum. I glanced in the rearview mirror and chuckled. Xiaoxian, Lu Huai is back. It looks like your senior really doesn't trust me. Xiaoxuan's face turned pale with frustration. Ignore him. Hua Tianyu is sticking his nose where it doesn't belong. I cut her a sideways glance. I thought you two were on good terms. On the surface, maybe, she said, her voice flat. She sighed, looking out the window. I'll tell you the truth so you don't get the wrong idea. Hua Tianyu and I are classmates, but we're also competitors. He's my senior and my mentor. He's given me resources and made things easy for me, but it's all for one reason. He wants my talent and my beauty. He wants to marry me into the Hua family once I graduate to boost their power. She tightened her grip on her bag. But I won't go. I want my own freedom, not to be some man's trophy. He underestimates me. He thinks he can control everything, but my fate belongs to me. Right now, he's much stronger than I am, so I have to play along. For now. She looked weary. Since entering Tianxing Academy, she had seen the world, but she had also felt the crushing weight of those above her. In the world of transcendence, the hierarchy was even more brutal than among normal people. A single level of difference in cultivation meant a world of difference in status. Is he really that strong? I asked. Xiaoxian turned to me and gave a bitter smile. Strong? He's terrifying. He's like a massive mountain standing in the way of every student at the academy. By the way, back at my house, I felt a flash of killing intent from you toward him. He insulted Ling, and you were angry. I felt it. I admitted. You're a newborn calf who doesn't fear the tiger, she warned. If you ever see him again, hide those feelings. If you actually provoke him, you'll die. The only reason he didn't kill you the other day was because of me. Lin Yuan, you're just an ordinary person. Don't make an enemy out of him. You can't afford it. Is he really that scary? I repeated. What do you think? I was a once-in-a-century genius at our high school, and even then, the academy assigned him as my mentor. Do you know Master Ma from our city? Yeah, I said. A local legend. Master Ma is 50 years old and a great master, the soaring realm. Hua Tianyu is only 21, and he's already reached the manner-opening realm. One more breakthrough, and he becomes a great master himself. With his talent, it'll take him a year, maybe 2 at most. Once a fish leaps over the dragon gate, it soars through the 9 heavens. I felt a genuine jolt of surprise. I didn't realize Hua Tianyu was that close to becoming a master. Scared now? Xiaoxian asked. Good. Stay humble when you see him. It's for your own good. If I told you I wasn't scared, would you believe me? No. Suit yourself, I said quietly. I didn't bother explaining. After absorbing the memories of the golden-winged Great Peng, my perspective had shifted. I had seen the vastness of the universe through the eyes of a primordial predator. With my system, my path was set. Hua Tianyu might be a genius, but to me, he was just another obstacle. Even if he were already a master, I wouldn't tremble. Xiaoxian took a deep breath, dropping the subject. There's one more thing. Don't waste your time on me. We aren't possible. I blinked and looked at her. She was staring straight ahead, her face as cold as frost. Why? I asked after a moment of silence. You're an ordinary person. I'm a transcendent. Our paths won't cross again. You'll never catch up to me. If I'm a bird in the sky, you're a fish in a stream. The fish spends its life in the water, while the bird has the entire horizon. Lin Yuan, focus on your studies. Graduate, find a nice girl, and live a quiet, peaceful life. It's a good life. I'll talk to my parents. I know they wanted us together to repay your father's kindness, but you can't force feelings. They'll understand. I couldn't help it. I let out a small laugh. What's so funny? She asked, looking genuinely confused. Most guys would be heartbroken hearing that from the girl who used to follow them around calling them Big Brother for years. But I wasn't that version of Lin Yuan anymore. You're wrong about one thing, I said. What? A fish doesn't have to stay in the stream. It can swim against the current, leap over the gate, and turn into a dragon. Then, it can soar through the heavens too. That's impossible, she said flatly. A fish is a fish. We'll see. I replied with a calm confidence. I'm not going to argue with you. It's pointless. She clearly didn't believe a word of it. To her, leaping the dragon gate was just a fairy tale people told themselves for comfort. The rest of the drive was silent. I felt a pang of sadness, but not because I'd been rejected. It was because the girl I grew up with was gone. The old Xiaoxian was always smiling, always cheerful. This new version was a block of ice, hardened by whatever she had faced at the academy. She had lost her humanity in exchange for power. We reached the airport. She grabbed her bag and stepped out of the van. I got out too, giving her a small wave. Take care, she said, her expression unchanging. You too, I replied. She turned and walked toward the terminal without looking back. As soon as she disappeared into the crowd, I turned to get back in my van, but a shadow blocked my path. It was Lu Huai. His face was twisted into a smug, nasty grin. Hey kid, he barked. My cousin told me to give you a warning. Stay away from Xiaoxian. I looked at him, leaning against my van door. And if I don't, then you'll regret it. People like you. My cousin could crush you with a single word. As a former classmate, I'm giving you some advice. Know your place. She belongs to him. Is that so? I chuckled. So he's a big, tough transcendent, but he's sending a lackey to bully an ordinary person? If word gets out, I wonder if he'll have any dignity left in the transcendent world. Go back and tell him this. If he wants her, he should pursue her like a man, not use these pathetic, underhanded tactics. It's disgusting. He doesn't act like a senior. He acts like a coward. You. Lu Huai's face turned purple. Me what? I stepped closer, my voice dropping. The truth hurts, doesn't it? I wasn't in the mood for his games. I looked him dead in the eye and told him to stop acting like a big shot and find a cool place to stay out of my way. Lu Huai's face turned a deep shade of purple. You're looking for death, Fongli, he hissed. You want to move? I asked, my voice calm. I'm giving you a warning. I don't really want to beat up a classmate. It'll be awkward when we have to see each other in school tomorrow. Screw you. He couldn't take it anymore. He swung a heavy palm toward my face. He had used expensive potions to fill 20 pressure points, giving him nearly 200 pounds of force. In his mind, teaching a lesson to a poor student like me was going to be easy. I didn't blink. As his hand swept toward me, I blurred into motion. My right hand shot out like a viper, grabbing his wrist midair. Lu Huai's face went pale. He tried to yank his arm back, but it was like he was bolted to a mountain. No matter how much he struggled, he couldn't move an inch. The strength gap between us was a canyon. Is this all you've got? I sneered. And you still have the nerve to bark in front of me? You. He was shaking with shame and rage. I was faster. Before his punch could even travel halfway, I drove my foot into his stomach. The impact sent him flying. He crashed into the pavement several feet away, gasping for air. He struggled to get up, his teeth grinding together so hard I thought they might snap. It was the look of someone whose ego had been shattered. To him, I was nothing, a nobody he had always looked down on. Being beaten by me was the ultimate humiliation. Suddenly, a girl's voice drifted over from the elevator exit. Fongli, Lu Huai, what are you guys doing here? We both turned. Standing there with a suitcase was Yao Qingxue, the school beauty. She looked stunning in a floral dress, her expression full of confusion. The moment Lu Huai saw her, his tough guy act vanished. He scrambled to his feet, frantically dusting off his clothes and forcing a smile. Oh, hey Qingxue, what a coincidence. Hey, Qingxue, I added, giving her a nod. She walked over, looking between us suspiciously. What was going on just now? Oh, that. Lu Huai laughed, though it sounded forced. Fong Li and I were just having a little friendly spar. I have to say, he's a dark horse. His strength is really something else. He shot me a dark, lingering look as he spoke. Really? She asked, turning to me. Something like that, I said. I didn't feel like explaining the details, so I just gave a short nod. Lu Huai didn't want to lose the spotlight. Anyway, Qingxue, it looks like you're heading back to the city. I've got my car right here. Let me give you a ride. I was in Feiqing helping my dad with some business, she explained. I just caught the morning flight back. I was planning on heading home now. I looked at her. I'm heading back too. I have my car. Yao Qingxue thought for a second, then smiled at me. Then I'll go with you, Fong Li. She turned back to Lu Huai. Sorry, Lu. I think I'll just head out with Fong Li. Lu Huai froze. Qingxue, wait. He's driving a beat-up van. I have a sports car right here. He was desperate. Opportunities to get close to a girl like Yao Qingxue were rare, especially since she was likely to get into a top martial academy and become a true transcendent. She gave him a polite, distant smile. The car doesn't really matter to me. I'm just more used to hanging out with Fong Li. Thanks for the offer, though. She tapped my arm. Where are you parked? Let's go. Right over there, I said, pointing to my van. I led her away, leaving Lu Huai standing alone in the parking lot. He looked like he was about to explode. I could hear the engine of my van roar to life as we pulled away, leaving him in a cloud of exhaust. In his rearview mirror, I saw his face twist with pure hatred. First, it was Yi Shaoxian, and now Yao Qingxue. In his mind, I was the one ruining everything. I could see him stewing, probably dreaming up ways to make me regret ever crossing him. Eventually, he got into his own car and started the drive back to the city. But halfway there, his phone buzzed. It was a man named Old Lu. What is it? Lu Huai snapped as he answered. Boss, we have a problem, the voice on the other end said. One of our factory leaders was murdered. We found the body burned to a crisp in an abandoned coking plant. Lu Huai slammed on his brakes. What? Someone actually dared to touch my men? Who did it? A student. Name's Fong Li. Lu Huai's eyes nearly popped out of his head. Fong Li? Are you sure? Who did he kill? Chen Asan and 6 of his guys. From what I can gather, Chen Asan had some kind of grudge against the kid. He kidnapped Fong Li's father to lure him to the plant. Fong Li went in alone. He walked out with his father, but Chen Asan and the rest, they never left. Their bodies were burned to ash. Lu Huai felt a chill run down his spine, followed by a surge of anger. Is Chen Asan a complete moron? He had a dozen guys, and he couldn't handle one student? The man had nearly 300 pounds of force. He lost to a kid? How embarrassing. Boss, how do we handle this? Old Lu asked. How do we handle it? Lu Huai growled. If we report this to the authorities, we're the ones who get investigated. You know exactly what kind of business Chen Asan was running. Clean it up. Act like it never happened. Act like it never. Old Lu sounded shocked. He knew his boss wasn't the type to let things slide. You heard me. Lu Huai barked. Don't cause any more trouble. As for Fong Li, I'll find a way to kill him myself. He's stronger than he looks. If you guys go after him, you'll just end up dead like the others. Understood, boss. I'll have the plant cleaned up immediately. The call ended. Lu Huai sat in his car, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. He drove home in a daze, his mind racing. He spent the afternoon pacing in his room. The humiliation from today was too much. If word got out that a poor kid had beaten him and stolen his girl, he'd never be able to show his face in the family or at school again. Plus, his cousin Yi Tianyu already hated me. Killing me would solve everyone's problems. But how? If he hired a hitman today, it would be too obvious. Even in this day and age, you couldn't just murder a student in broad daylight without the authorities asking questions. At lunch, he finally broke down and told his father, Lu Bingyuan, everything. His father was in his 60s and treated his son like a prince. Hearing that his boy had been bullied sent him into a quiet rage. When Lu Huai said he wanted me dead, his father didn't blink. To a man like him, a poor kid with no background was nothing. People died all the time now, beast attacks, mysterious murders, accidents. As long as it was done quietly, The government wouldn't waste resources investigating a nobody. My father and I sat in the dim light of his study, whispering like conspirators. We needed a plan that was foolproof. We needed to kill Fong Li, but we had to keep our hands clean. If a student died, the authorities might look the other way, but only if there wasn't a trail leading back to a prominent family like ours. After going back and forth, my father made the final call. To be safe, he would hire a chi-sensing realm transcendent to do the job. He'd leave the timing and the execution to the professional. As we talked, the shadow of an assassination plot began to take shape. Time moved fast after that. By Sunday night, Lingshan First High sent out a notice. Classes were back in session on Monday. The next morning, I headed to school with an empty backpack and a Union Bank card tucked safely in my pocket. My goal for the day was simple: tell my homeroom teacher that I was applying for the Martial Arts Academy. According to school rules, once a student declared their intent to take the martial arts entrance exam, they could spend the final month before graduation training off campus. They only had to show up on the day of the test. It was a system designed to give promising talents a head start. The school didn't have the resources to train us properly anyway. Most kids with potential either joined specialized agencies or paid for private tutors. Of course, hiring a professional wasn't cheap. A session with a decent fighter started at 20,000 credits a day, and even then, they were hard to book. I walked into class 22 on the 4th floor. Most of my classmates were already in their seats, buried in textbooks. Real martial arts talent was rare, maybe 2 or 3 kids per class at most. The rest had to grind away at culture and science subjects, hoping for a spot in a standard university. As I sat down, I felt a gaze burning into the back of my head. I turned and saw Lu Huai leaning back in his chair, a cold smirk on his face. He caught my eye and slowly ran a thumb across his throat. "Childish," I muttered. I ignored him and pulled out my books. Even for the Martial Arts Academy, I still had to pass the basic academic exams. They were easier than the standard ones, but I couldn't afford to fail them completely. Lu Huai's smirk widened when I didn't react. I could almost hear his thoughts. "Enjoy your last days, kid." He knew his father was out finding a killer at that very moment. To him, I was already a dead man walking. A moment later, Yao Qingxue walked into the room. Every guy in class turned to look. She was beautiful, wealthy, and a talented transcendent, the trifecta of a high school crush. "Hey, Qingxue," Lu Huai called out, flashing his best smile. "Hi, Lu," she replied with a polite, distant wave. She walked past him and stopped at her desk, which was right in front of mine. She saw me hunched over my work and tapped my shoulder. "Studying hard today, Fong Li?" she asked. I looked up. "The exams are coming. I have to put in the effort." "You're right," she laughed. "I should follow your lead. I'm going to hit the books too." She sat down and started reading. I gave her a small nod and went back to my own work. From the corner of my eye, I saw Lu Huai's face turn a nasty shade of red. He had gone out of his way to greet her and got a formal classmate Lu. I hadn't done a thing, and she had approached me first. To a guy like him, pampered and entitled, this was a slap in the face. His hatred for me just grew deeper. First period was Chinese, taught by our homeroom teacher, Xia Zhaoyan. She had been teaching for over 20 years, but instead of wisdom, she had gathered bitterness. She was the type of teacher who worshipped grades and family status while looking down on anyone she deemed beneath her. She clicked into the room in her high heels, her black-framed glasses perched on her nose. "Rise," she barked. The class stood up in unison. "Hello, teacher." "Sit." She scanned the room with a sharp eye. The college entrance exam is only a month away. The school needs a final list of who is applying for the Martial Arts Academy versus the Standard Culture Academy. If you are applying for martial arts, stand up now so I can record your names. Yao Qingxue stood up immediately. Beside her, a boy named Li Bolong stood up as well. He was the only other recognized talent in our class, a rich kid who usually hung around Lu Huai. Xia Zhaoyan beamed at them. These were her star pupils, talented, wealthy, and their parents always sent her expensive gifts. Then I stood up. The room went dead silent. Everyone knew me. I was a decent student from a single-parent home with zero background and, as far as they knew, zero talent. Xia Zhaoyan's smile vanished. "Fong Li, what are you doing?" "Teacher, I'm applying for the Martial Arts Academy. I said clearly. Don't be ridiculous, she snapped. You have no talent, and your physical stats are average at best. You're not going to any martial arts academy. Sit down. I didn't have talent before, I replied, but I do now. Liar. Talent awakens early or not at all. You're almost 18. Where would this talent suddenly come from? You have good grades in your regular subjects. Stick to the Culture Academy. Martial arts isn't for people like you. A wave of whispers broke out across the room. What is he thinking? Maybe he hit his head. Everyone wants to be a transcendent, but you need money and luck for that. He has neither. Xiao Salian slammed her hand on the podium. Quiet. The room fell silent again. I didn't sit down. I'm not lying. Whether you believe me or not doesn't matter. I am applying for the Martial Arts Academy. No one is going to stop me. Xiao Salian sneered. She hated being challenged, especially by a nobody like me. Fongli, you're from a single-parent home, right? Yes, I said, my voice turning cold. Did your father never teach you manners? To lie to a teacher's face like this, it makes me wonder. Maybe you were just born without a mother to raise you right. No upbringing, no shame. The words hit me like a physical blow. The predatory instinct of the great Peng surged in my chest, turning my blood to ice. I looked up at her, my eyes locking onto hers with a gaze so sharp it felt like a blade. Xiao Salian flinched. She actually took a half step back, her face paling. She had never seen that look in a student's eyes before. It was the look of something that could kill. You talk about manners? I asked, my voice low and dangerous. In 3 years, have you ever looked at a student who wasn't rich or talented? You're a hypocrite. Don't act like you're some pillar of virtue when everyone knows what you really are. It's disgusting. I finally said the words I had been holding back for 3 years. In this class, unless your name was Yao Qingxue, Li Bolong, or Lu Huai, you were basically invisible. Whenever there were opportunities or resources, Xiao Salian handed them to those 3 on a silver platter. The rest of us got nothing, no matter how good our grades were. She didn't even try to hide her bias during lectures. If anyone else asked something, it depended on her mood. If she was happy, she'd give a half-hearted answer. If she wasn't, she'd call the students stupid and tell them to figure it out themselves. The classroom erupted. Everyone except Lu Huai and Li Bolong stared at me in pure shock. They couldn't believe I was actually saying this. I was tearing into our homeroom teacher's ego right to her face. They all knew I was telling the truth. Even Yao Qingxue, the one who benefited most, looked like she agreed. Xiao Salian was livid. She slammed her hand on the podium again, her face turning a deep shade of red. Fongli, how dare you speak to me like that? I let out a cold laugh. If I were still just a regular student worried about my academic future, I might have swallowed my pride. But I was applying for the Martial Arts Academy now. If she wanted to play games and act superior, I wasn't going to take it. This is rebellion, she screamed. I am calling your parent right now. We'll see how they feel about your upbringing. She pulled out her phone, scrolled furiously through her contacts, and found my father's number. She hit dial and put it on speaker, her chest heaving with rage. The call connected. My father, Fong Han, answered with a calm voice. Hello, Teacher Xia? Hello? There is nothing hello about this, she barked, spit flying from her mouth. How are you raising your son? He's talking back to teachers in class and lying through his teeth. Fong Han, I demand you come to the school immediately and take him home to reflect on his actions. The other end of the line went silent for a moment. Then, my father spoke. What lie did he tell that made you so angry? He claims he has transcendent talent. He says he's applying for the Martial Arts Academy. It's a blatant lie. When I tried to stop him from throwing his life away, he started insulting me. You need to teach him some basic decency. I waited, a smirk playing on my lips. My father's voice came back, but the warmth was gone. It was icy. Listen, my son's business is his own. I support his decisions completely. As for how I raise my child, that's my business, not yours. Don't try to hide behind your title as a teacher to bully us. I'm not buying it. We're done. Click, he hung up. The silence in the room was deafening. I looked at the stunned Xiao Salian. Teacher Xia, just sign the form. Once you're done, I'll leave for training. You're clearly sick of looking at me, and honestly, the feeling is mutual. Let's just stay out of each other's way. Xiao Salian gripped her phone so hard I thought it might shatter. I could practically see steam coming off her head. She pointed a trembling finger at me. Fine. Like father, like son. You want the martial arts academy? I'll sign you up. But when you fail the strength test and lose your chance at a normal college, don't come crying to me. I want to see what you do then. Don't worry about me, I said, my voice flat. I'll pass that test. In your dreams. She snatched the registration sheet and scribbled my name down with aggressive strokes. Once I saw it was official, I adjusted my bag. Great. I'm leaving now. No need to see me out. Get out, she screamed, pointing at the door. I gave her a look of pure disdain, swung my empty backpack over my shoulder, and walked out of the classroom without looking back. As my silhouette disappeared down the hall, Yao Qingxue finally snapped out of her daze. Teacher, please register me as well. I'm heading out to train too. She didn't wait for an answer before following me. Xia Zalian looked like she wanted to explode at the lack of respect, but she held it in. Yao Qingxue had real talent and a wealthy family. She was almost guaranteed a spot in the academy. Gritting her teeth, the teacher signed her name, then Li belongs. Once finished, she turned a cold gaze toward the remaining students. Is there anyone else who wants to be delusional? Anyone else too good for a normal education? No one moved. Good. Don't follow Fong Li's example. A student who lies, disrespects authority, and doesn't know his own limits has no future. After the exams, when he fails to get into any school, he'll be stuck working the lowest jobs in society. He'll spend his life hitting dead ends. Let this be a lesson to you all. Understand? Most of the students, intimidated by her vitriol, mumbled a collective, "We understand." Fine. The rest of you are for the academic track. I'll register you in my office. This period is for self-study. She stormed out. The second the door closed, the room turned into a beehive of gossip. Holy crap, Fong Li has some serious guts. I've never seen anyone talk to her like that. Guts? More like no brain. Another whispered. The martial arts academy is impossible to get into. He just threw his future away. Maybe, but he said everything we've been wanting to say for years. For that alone, he's a legend. It's just a shame about the cost. Lu Huai sat in his seat, his eyes dark and calculating. He didn't care about the drama. He had caught one specific detail. Fong Li was leaving school grounds to train. That meant he would be alone, vulnerable. He stood up, excused himself to the restroom, and slipped out of the classroom. Once he was clear, he called his father. Lu Bingyuan listened to the news on the other end. I'll adjust the plan, his father said. I'm still looking for a transcendent willing to take the job. Don't be impatient. Since he's left the school, I can track his movements. It'll be easier to kill him without leaving a paper trail back to us. Lu Huai felt a surge of predatory joy. Finally, he would have his revenge. He was already imagining how he would brag to Hua Tianyu once the job was done. Maybe his cousin would finally see him as someone worth noticing. Outside the building, I was walking toward the gates when I heard footsteps behind me. Fong Li, wait up. I turned around. It was Yao Qingxue. Why did you decide to apply to the martial arts academy? Yao Qingxue asked as we walked side by side. I thought you didn't have any transcendent talent. I stayed quiet for a moment, thinking of a believable excuse. It awakened recently, I said. Otherwise, I wouldn't have dared to go after that golden-winged great pung the other day. I was lying, of course. I couldn't exactly tell her I'd acquired a mysterious system 3 days ago. If she knew I had filled 70 pressure points in less than 72 hours, she'd think I was some kind of human-shaped monster. Some secrets are better kept hidden. I'm serious, I continued, seeing her skeptical look. I've filled 70 points already. My strength has reached 325 pounds. But time is tight. I need to break through the 120 mark before the strength test to qualify for the second round of exams. She stopped walking, her eyes wide with disbelief. Punch something, she challenged. Let me see. I shook my head, feeling a bit helpless, and walked over to a nearby tree. I didn't hold back. I threw a heavy punch straight into the trunk. There was a loud crack as a deep fist print appeared in the wood, and the bark splintered around it. Yao Qingxue stared at the damage. Finally, she believed me. A genuine smile spread across her face. I had no idea you were hiding this much power. So, where are you planning to train? Breaking through 50 more points in a month is a massive task. I'm joining a mercenary group. I said firmly. I'm going into the wilderness. Her face went pale. What? In our world, the wilderness was a synonym for death. It was a wasteland crawling with vicious beasts. Even seasoned transcendents could lose their lives if they weren't careful. Joining a mercenary group meant taking on cleanup missions in the most dangerous zones. The rewards were high, but the risk was even higher. Most students chose safe, intensive training camps before the big exam. Almost nobody chose the wilderness. You need to think about this, she said, her voice grave. It's incredibly dangerous out there. I've thought about it, I replied. If I want to be a transcendent, I can't expect a smooth path. Besides, the wilderness might be exactly what I need. Ever since I absorbed the will of the golden-winged great Pong, I felt a strange connection to the wild. What seemed like a graveyard to others felt like a hunting ground to me. As your classmate, I can't give you much advice, Yao Qingxue said, looking me in the eye. Just one thing, stay alive. Thanks, I said. She smiled softly. I'm looking forward to you becoming a transcendent. Maybe one day we can fight side by side. I won't let you down. By the way, I asked, how many points have you filled? 118, she admitted. I gasped. That many? You're only 2 points away from the chi sensing realm. She shook her head, her expression turning serious. 120 is just the minimum to break through. To get into the best schools and reach your full potential, you need more. The human body has 362 pressure points. 120 is only a third. She explained that the legendary grandmasters of our country, the ones who could fly, had filled far more than the minimum during their training. If I want to go far on the path of a transcendent, I have to push myself now, she said. I'm aiming for 130 before I advance. It's hard, though. Once you hit 120, the amount of energy required to fill the next point increases drastically. Most people hit their limit there. I understand, I said. My eyes flickered with a faint golden light. Thanks to the system, I had the limitless divine body. I didn't have a limit. As long as I had enough spiritual energy, I could push every realm to its absolute peak. We reached the school gates and parted ways. I hopped on a bus and headed straight for the Mercenary Association. It was a massive hub where adventurers traded monster parts for cash, bought high-tech gear, and formed teams. I walked into the main hall and went straight to the testing station. I hit the machine, and the display flashed, 325 pounds. The requirement to become a mercenary was 250, so I passed easily. The staff member handed me my registration, though I noticed several veteran mercenaries giving me weird looks. I looked like a typical high school kid, clean, studious, and completely out of place in a room full of scarred, rugged killers. I ignored them and walked over to the recruitment area. It was a large lounge filled with sofas and tables. Mercenaries sat around holding up posters with their team requirements. Most teams were looking for experienced fighters to replace members lost in the field. As I walked through the rows, I felt their eyes on me. Nobody offered me a spot. They saw my youth as a liability. In the wilderness, an inexperienced kid was a trap waiting to happen. Finally, I stopped in front of a small table. Their poster was simple. It just said, young and capable of fighting. That sounded like me. Ever since the Peng's memories merged with mine, I felt like I was born to fight. Can I join? I asked. The team had 3 people. There was a massive guy built like a bull, a man with sharp, predatory eyes, and a woman with a fiery figure and hair dyed bright red. They all looked up, scanning me from head to toe. The 3 of them stared at me. They looked at each other, then back at me, clearly skeptical. The big guy, the one built like a bull, spoke up first. Kid, did you read the sign? It says young and capable. You've got the young part down, but you don't look like much of a fighter. I can fight, I said, keeping my voice steady. If you don't believe me, test me. I was genuinely interested in this group. They felt different from the others. The big man laughed, a deep, booming sound. Interesting. All right, kid. We'll give you a shot. Pass the test, and you're in. Deal? I replied. The big man shouted to the rest of the hall, telling the other mercenaries to clear some space. Everyone was curious about the high school kid trying to play soldier, so they moved the tables and sofas aside, forming a wide circle. The captain looked at the woman with the red hair. Hongyu, you take him. Don't go too hard. Just see what he's made of. Hongyu stood up and cracked her neck. She had a lazy, confident smile. Don't worry, Captain. I know how to handle a junior. I'll just give him a little taste of reality. We stepped into the center of the clearing. Dozens of hardened mercenaries watched from the sidelines, placing mental bets on how many seconds I'd last. What's your name, kid? Hongyu asked. Lin Yuan. And yours? Hongyu. My strength is 350 pounds. Watch yourself. She gave me a playful wink, trying to throw me off balance. My pupils narrowed. I realized then that nobody here was ordinary. My first opponent was already stronger than me by 25 pounds. It wasn't a massive gap, but in a fight, every pound mattered. Still, with the Peng's instincts screaming in my blood, I wasn't worried. 325 pounds, I announced, settling into a stance. After you. A murmur went through the crowd. They were shocked. To have that much power at my age meant I was a genius candidate for transcendence. Most of these guys were over 25. Once you hit 22, your ability to absorb chi drops significantly. If you haven't completed the great circulation by then, you're usually stuck as a low-level grunt forever. We backed away, leaving about 10 meters between us. Hongyu took a deep breath and suddenly let out a piercing, guttural scream. She wanted to rattle me, thinking I was just a student with no real combat experience. If I flinched at a shout, the fight was over before it started. I didn't even blink. In the memories of the golden-winged Great Pong, I had seen ancient beasts whose roars could shatter mountains. The Pong had killed them all and eaten them for breakfast. A human shout was nothing. Seeing I wasn't fazed, Hongyu lunged. She closed the gap instantly, throwing a heavy right hook aimed straight at my temple. I tracked the arc of her fist perfectly. Just as it was about to land, I parried with my left hand, redirecting her momentum and slapping her arm aside. The room went silent. The veteran mercenaries leaned in, their expressions turning serious. That single move proved I wasn't a novice. My timing was too precise, my movement too fluid. Hongyu didn't panic. In fact, a flash of triumph crossed her eyes. The hook was a feint. As I parried, she whipped her left leg up, aiming a brutal kick at my midsection. She was fast, but I was faster. The moment I deflected her punch, I was already moving. I lashed out with a heavy roundhouse kick of my own. Our shins collided with a sickening thud. Hongyu was thrown back several steps before she could stabilize herself. She had kicked out of habit, but I had put my full weight into my strike. My explosive power had overwhelmed her. She didn't look at me like a junior anymore. Her intuition told her I was dangerous. She stepped forward again, leaping into the air. She unleashed a flurry of consecutive kicks, a blur of motion coming at my head and chest. I didn't retreat. I stood my ground, my feet planted like iron, and used my fists to punch her legs out of the air one by one. When she landed, she immediately pivoted into a low, heavy sweep aimed at my stomach. It was a powerful, desperate move. The crowd expected me to jump back or block with my arms. Instead, I did something impossible. My feet tapped the floor in a rapid, vibrating rhythm. It felt like I was breaking the laws of gravity. I slid across the floor like I was on ice, gliding right past her kick and appearing at her flank. Before she could even register I was gone, my hand was a claw. I clamped it firmly around her throat. The entire sequence happened in the blink of an eye. Hongyu froze, her legs still extended in the air, my fingers pressed against her windpipe. The crowd gasped. Nobody there could have pulled that off. It required a terrifying level of coordination and an uncanny sense of timing. They realized I wasn't a flower from a greenhouse. I was a predator. I win, I said quietly. Hongyu looked dazed. She couldn't understand how I had moved so fast. I smiled and let go. She lowered her leg, staring at me in total silence. Kid, you were holding back, the big captain said, clapping his hands. That was incredible. Can I join now? I asked. Absolutely. You're more than welcome. Wait a second, a tall man shouted, stepping out from another table. Kid, come join my team instead. We have 5 people already. With you, we'd be 6. More people means more safety. Think about it. Safety in numbers is a lie, another captain chimed in. Join us. It's just 2 of us, but I've opened 110 pressure points. My strength is over 400 pounds. We split the rewards 3 ways. You'll get rich faster. Suddenly, I wasn't the kid nobody wanted. I was the prize everyone was fighting over. The offers kept coming. Every captain in the room had seen my strength and, more importantly, my potential. I was young. They figured that in a year or two, I'd be a full-blown transcendent in the chi-sensing realm. Joining their team now meant they were securing a future powerhouse as a backup. In this world, strength was the only currency that mattered, and right now, my stock was rising fast. The big guy who first invited me looked a bit awkward. His team was solid, but they weren't the strongest group in the hall. He probably thought I'd jump ship for a higher-ranked squad. He wasn't ready to give up on me yet. "Little brother," he said, stepping forward. "You liked our poster for a reason. Don't overthink it. Just join us." I thought about it for a second. He was right. I liked the simplicity of their pitch. Their poster only had 4 words: young and strong. It was direct and told me exactly what they valued. "I'm in," I said, looking him in the eye. "Great." He slapped me on the shoulder, a massive grin breaking across his face. "From now on, you're a member of the Tyrant Blood mercenary group." A collective sigh went up from the other captains. They realized the show was over. One by one, they dragged their tables back to their spots and hoisted their posters again, looking for the next recruit. The big man pulled me aside to join the other 2 members of the team. "Introduce yourself, kid. Let the brothers get to know you." "Nice to meet you all," I said. "I'm Fong Li. I'm a senior at Lin City First High School." The air went still. They had guessed I was young, but hearing I was a student preparing for the college entrance exams still shocked them. The woman I had just fought spoke up first. "I'm Hong Yu. I've been with Tyrant Blood for 2 years. I'm the close quarters assault specialist." The big man followed. "I'm the captain, Zhong Wuba. I actually graduated from First High years ago, so I guess I'm your senior. I'm the heavy defense guy." The last man, who looked the most average of the bunch, nodded at me. "I'm Lu Xiaoyu, retired sniper. I handle long-range fire support." With the introductions out of the way, Zhong Wuba got down to business. "Fong Li, the exams are only a month away. I assume you're heading into the wilderness to push your limits so you can get into a top martial arts academy." "That's the plan," I replied. "Good. I won't waste time then. I'll go grab a contract. You guys get your gear ready. We meet at the main entrance in 2 hours to head out." "Understood," we answered in unison. Zhong Wuba paused, looking at my casual clothes. "The wilderness is a death trap. You can't go empty-handed. You need a real kit. If you're short on cash, I can lend you $500,000 to buy some basic gear. You can pay me back from your share of the loot." He clearly thought I was a poor student. I couldn't blame him. Most kids my age didn't have a cent to their name. I shook my head and smiled. "I've got it covered. Is there a place here to buy equipment?" Zhong Wuba looked surprised but didn't pry. "All right. Our gear is being serviced anyway. Hong Yu, Xiaoyu, take him to the equipment zone and pick up my stuff while you're at it." We split up. Zhong Wuba headed to the mission boards, while the other 2 led me to the southwest side of the hall. It looked like a high-end shopping mall, filled with glass displays showcasing armor and weapons. Each one had a detailed spec sheet and a price tag. "There are 2 things you need," Hong Yu explained, pointing at the displays. "A combat suit for defense and a weapon for offense. You need a balanced set if you want to survive. Don't be cheap, Fong Li. This is the one place where saving money can get you killed." Lu Xiaoyu nodded solemnly. "She's right. We lost our last teammate because he tried to save a few bucks on his armor. A beast caught him off guard, and he was dead before we could even reach him." "I understand," I said. "The money stays on the blade." I wasn't an idiot. Thanks to the memories of the golden-winged Great Pong, I knew exactly how terrifying the wilderness was. Saving money meant risking my life. After browsing for a while, I made my choice: a black gold combat suit and a black gold saber. Total cost, 2.3 million. Hong Yu and Lu Xiaoyu stared at me in disbelief when I swiped my card. They thought I was some kid looking for a handout, but I had just dropped a small fortune on top-tier gear. Seeing me invest that much gave them a visible boost in confidence. A teammate who took his survival that seriously was a teammate you could trust. I had to wait an hour for the gear to be prepped. When the crates finally arrived, I took them to the changing room. The black gold suit was incredible. It was made of a specialized alloy mixed with rare metals, mostly matte black with subtle gold trim. It felt flexible, like a second skin, but I knew it could stop a high-caliber bullet. Then there was the saber. It was 1.3 meters long, heavy and cold. The blade was pitch black except for the edge, which shimmered with a faint golden light. It weighed 85 pounds. When I stepped out of the changing room, the transformation was total. I didn't look like a high school student anymore. With the armor hugging my muscles and the massive saber gripped in my hand, I looked like a predator. Hong Yu and Lu Xiaoyu nodded in approval. Finally, I looked like a real mercenary. We headed over to the maintenance counter to pick up the rest of the team's gear. Every pro knew that before you stepped into the wild, your equipment had to be perfect. One loose bolt or a dull blade was the difference between coming home and becoming monster bait. In the wilderness, damaged gear is a death sentence. We couldn't take any chances. While my teammates, Lu Xiaoyu and Hong Yu, waited for their own equipment to finish being serviced, I could tell they were nervous. The reality of the mission was starting to sink in. We headed back to the changing rooms to suit up. Lu Xiaoyu emerged wearing a set of sleek, green alloy armor. She carried a high-energy sniper rifle that looked like it could punch through a tank. Hong Yu opted for a set of crimson light armor, designed for speed, paired with a deadly three-edged spike. They both looked sharp, professional, and ready for war. Even though most mercenaries were out here for the money, they were still the front line of defense for humanity. Without people like them, the cities wouldn't last a week. Before leaving, we stocked up on essential medical supplies. By the time I was finished, I had spent 2.33 million. My bank account, which had been overflowing just hours ago, was down to a measly 50,000. We met Zhong Wuba at the main entrance of the mercenary hall. He had finished the paperwork and grabbed his gear. When he stepped out of the changing room, he looked like a walking fortress. His alloy armor was a mix of black and red, making his already massive frame look even more imposing. He carried a heavy scarlet axe and a thick riot shield. He was our tank, the man meant to stand between us and the monsters. Everyone ready? Zhong Wuba asked, his voice booming. Let's move. We headed outside to a massive off-road vehicle parked near the entrance. We tossed our packs into the trunk and climbed in. The engine roared to life with a deep, powerful hum, and we began the drive toward the Great Wall. My heart hammered against my ribs. For the first time in my life, I was leaving the safety of the city. Everything I knew about the wilderness came from grainy TV footage or textbooks. Now, I was going to see the wild side of this world with my own eyes. The drive was short. The mercenary hall was only 5 miles from the perimeter. Soon, the Great Wall loomed over us like a mountain of stone and steel. It was 50 meters high and stretched as far as the eye could see. Fortifications and watchtowers dotted the top, filled with soldiers ready to repel any beast that dared get too close. This was the only thing keeping the citizens safe since the spiritual energy recovery changed everything. A massive tunnel, 500 meters wide, cut through the base of the wall. It was a bottleneck of activity. Vehicles were constantly streaming in and out, some heading into the unknown, others returning battered and bloodied. As we drove through, I saw dried bloodstains on the lower sections of the wall. They were silent reminders of the brutal battles fought to keep this gate open. Once we cleared the tunnel, the world opened up. The other vehicles began to fan out, heading toward their respective mission zones. Decades of war with the beasts had erased the smaller towns and villages from the map. Now, they were just ruins claimed by the wild. The further we drove, the more the world changed. The old highways were cracked and overgrown with thick weeds. Nature was reclaiming everything, growing with a savage, primitive energy. We're officially in the wilderness now, Zhong Wuba said, his eyes scanning the horizon. Stay sharp. Monsters could jump out at any second. The relaxed mood in the car vanished instantly. I felt the air grow heavy with tension. Don't be too nervous, kid, Hong Yu said, glancing back at me. If we hit a pack, find a place to hide and watch how we handle them first. Learn the rhythm before you jump in. You don't want to freeze up when a beast is in your face. Thanks for the tip, I replied. I'll play it by ear. Zhong Wuba nodded. She's right. You have combat experience, but fighting monsters is different from fighting people. Observe. Adapt. Understood, Captain. I've got high hopes for you, he added with a small grin, which helped break the tension. He started briefing us on the specifics. The mission is straightforward, but it'll take time. We're heading to Lianfeng Town to clear out a nest of beasts and hold the area for 3 weeks. The base reward is 20 million. Plus, we get to keep any valuable parts from the kills. If everything goes well, I expect us to clear 40 million total. That's 10 million each. My pulse quickened. 10 million. With that kind of money, I could buy 2 bottles of super gene medicine. If I refined those through my system into chaos gene medicine, I'd have enough power to smash through the gates of the chi sensing realm. Not to mention, I could devour the essence of the monsters we killed or refine their flesh into pills. This trip was exactly what I needed to level up. The difficulty shouldn't be too high since we're staying on the outer fringes, Zhong Wuba continued. But it's a long haul. It's a day's drive to the town. We should arrive by tomorrow morning. The rest of the day was quiet. We didn't encounter any attacks, and the only sound was the constant drone of the engine echoing across the silent, empty plains. But back in the city, I didn't know that a shadow was already moving against me. Lu Bingyuan had hired a professional assassin, a transcendent in the chi-sensing realm. The killer was already cursing his luck. Finding a specific mercenary group in the vast wilderness was like looking for a needle in a haystack. He couldn't track our official mission logs, so he had to rely on old-school tracking and the limited intel Lu Bingyuan's men could provide. The assassin was furious, even threatening to quit, but his reputation was on the line. He vented his frustration by screaming at Lu Bingyuan over the phone before driving his own vehicle into the wild, hunting for my head. By the next morning, we reached the outskirts of Lianfeng Town. The real test was about to begin. Zhong Wuba pulled the truck under the canopy of a massive tree, concealing it with piles of brush and dry branches. Once we were hidden, he led us on foot toward Lianfeng Town. I gripped my black gold battle saber, my senses dialed to the maximum. My gut told me this place was crawling with monsters, and the memories of the golden-winged great pung in my mind confirmed it. Predators loved these abandoned human settlements. We were barely 500 meters from the town when our path was blocked. A pack of wolves sat waiting for us. These weren't normal animals. They were black phoenix wolves, mutated by spiritual energy. They stood over a meter tall at the shoulder and stretched 2 meters long, their thick limbs ending in razor-sharp claws. Their dark fur bristled, and their eyes burned with a cold, predatory hunger. "How hung you? You and I take the front," Zhong Wuba barked, his voice low and steady. "Xiaoyu, find a high point and give us fire support. Lin Yuan, stay back and watch. Learn how we handle things." Lu Xiaoyu didn't hesitate. She immediately ducked back to find a vantage point. "I'm joining the fight," I said, my voice leaving no room for argument. Zhong Wuba glanced at me, surprised by my resolve. "Fine, just watch your openings." He didn't waste time arguing. Black phoenix wolves were dangerous, but they weren't impossible to kill if you stayed focused. This was just the appetizer for the trip. The lead wolf let out a haunting howl. In an instant, the pack charged from 3 directions. 4 wolves came from the left, 4 from the center, and 2 from the right. "Split up," Zhong Wuba shouted. He charged the center group, while Hao Hongyu swung left to intercept the 4 there. They purposely left the 2 on the right for me, thinking it would be less pressure for a rookie. I watched the 2 beasts lunge toward me, one trailing slightly behind the other. I didn't rush out like the others. Instead, I stood my ground, recalling everything the Great Ping's memories knew about these creatures. These wolves were low-level beasts. They were strong in a pack, but their individual combat power was average. They had hides like bronze and bones like iron, but they had one fatal weakness: their necks. The defense there was paper-thin. Zhong Wuba noticed I wasn't moving and felt a surge of worry. He thought I'd frozen in fear. If I didn't move soon, I was dead meat. But he had 4 wolves of his own closing in and couldn't bail me out. He could only pray Lu Xiaoyu would cover me. If a member of the Tyrant Blood mercenaries died in the very first skirmish, they'd be the laughingstock of the industry. Hao Hongyu was also confused. From what she knew of me, I wasn't the type to be scared. She remembered when we first met. She had tried to intimidate me with a shout, and I hadn't even blinked. Up on a small ridge, Lu Xiaoyu lay flat, her sniper rifle braced. She saw the danger I was in and shifted her aim toward the lead wolf targeting me. Her finger tightened on the trigger, ready to fire the moment things went south. I snapped back to reality. The first wolf was only 10 meters away, its jaws open, saliva dripping from its fangs. It saw me as nothing more than a meal. I let out a cold laugh. I gripped the hilt of my saber and charged. The wolf leaped when it was just a few feet away, aiming straight for my throat. I kept running, closing the distance until we were less than half a meter apart. At the last possible second, I pivoted my body to the left. The wolf's massive frame sailed past me, and I drove my blade upward into the soft flesh of its neck. The saber sank in deep. Blood sprayed across the dirt as the wolf let out a pathetic whimper. Its momentum carried it forward, so instead of pulling the blade out, I used the force to hurl the dying beast aside. It hit the ground with a heavy thud. Zhong Wuba and Hao Hongyu caught the tail end of the move. Their worry instantly turned into shock. One strike, one kill. That wasn't the move of a scared student. That was the efficiency of a veteran. Where the hell did a high schooler learn to fight monsters like that? Lu Xiaoyu wiped the sweat from her palms. She had been a split second away from firing. She watched in awe as I adjusted my stance for the second wolf. The second beast was smarter. It didn't jump early. It sprinted until it was barely a meter away before lunging at my chest, intending to pin me down and crush my windpipe. I reacted instantly. As it leaped, I bent my knees and leaned my upper body back, sliding across the ground directly underneath the wolf. The creature's eyes widened with terror as it lost sight of me. I looked up at the exposed neck passing over me and lunged. My blade pierced through its throat, and with a violent jerk, I sliced forward, disemboweling the beast as I slid. By the time it landed behind me, it was nothing but a hollowed-out corpse. A gunshot echoed through the air. Lu Xiaoyu had fired, blowing the head off one of the wolves attacking Hao Hongyu. The battle on their side was much more intense. They were each facing 4 wolves, but they were experienced. They held their ground, trading blows with the beasts while Lu Xiaoyu picked them off one by one. I stood up, shaking the blood off my blade, and sprinted toward Zhong Wuba. He was a heavy-class warrior with a strength of 400 pounds. He wasn't afraid of these wolves at all. As one lunged at his left, he raised his heavy shield and slammed it forward like a battering ram. The wolf was sent flying 10 meters, landing, by pure coincidence, right in front of me. I didn't say a word. I just swung my saber in a clean arc, opening its throat before it could even stand. Zhong Wuba seized his own opening, swinging his massive axe and splitting another wolf's skull open. Bone fragments sprayed everywhere, but the axe got stuck in the thick bone. The remaining 2 wolves saw the opening and charged him from both sides. Another shot rang out. The wolf on the left dropped dead, leaving only the one on the right. Zhong Wuba didn't panic. He braced his shield, absorbing the 500-pound impact of the wolf's leap. He held firm, then suddenly heaved the shield upward, launching the wolf into the air. I was already there. As the wolf reached the peak of its flight, I leaped into the air, my saber raised high. I brought it down with everything I had, severing the beast's head in midair. Good kid. You've got guts. Zhong Wuba laughed, pulling his axe free. Hongyu still has 2 left, I said calmly. Let's go. We regrouped and charged toward the final fight. I sprinted toward the remaining fight. Lu Xiaoyu already had her rifle leveled at the targets. During our brief clash, Hao Hongyu had managed to take down 1 more black wind wolf, leaving only 2 left. With the 4 of us combined, the struggle didn't last long. We tore through them with clinical efficiency. From the first howl to the final kill, the entire battle had lasted less than 10 minutes. Zhong Wuba stood among the carcasses, wiping sweat from his brow. He looked at the bodies, then turned his gaze toward me, his eyes narrowing with curiosity. You surprised me, kid, he said. You don't act like a student at all. You fight like a mercenary who's spent a lifetime in the wilderness. Where did you get that kind of experience? Hao Hongyu and Lu Xiaoyu stepped closer, clearly wondering the same thing. I just shrugged and gave them a casual smile. Maybe I was just born for it, I said. Facing those wolves, I didn't feel afraid. I felt excited. It felt like I was finally back where I belonged. I wasn't lying, but I wasn't telling the whole truth either. That predatory instinct came directly from the golden-winged Great Peng. As I fought, I realized that the violent exchange was actually accelerating my digestion of the Peng's will. The more I fought, the more I understood its ancient combat techniques. To truly master the power of that king-class beast, I needed blood and conflict. I had a feeling that if I fully absorbed its will, I might even touch the mysteries of the fourth stage of transcendence, the intent realm, much earlier than expected. The three of them exchanged looks of disbelief. Is that even possible? Zhong Wuba asked, scratching his head. It is for me, I replied firmly. I couldn't tell them about the system, so I let them believe I was just a natural-born killer. Well, maybe you really are a combat genius, Zhong Wuba laughed, clapping me on the shoulder. I'm curious to see how far you'll go. Just don't forget us when you're famous, all right? You're joking, Captain, I said, nodding back. All right, let's clean up the battlefield, he commanded. Skin the wolves. Their pelts are worth a decent amount of credits. As we dragged the 10 wolf carcasses together, I saw my chance. I reached out and quietly activated my devour ability. Strands of spiritual energy flowed from the wolves into my body, but the flow was thin. These were common beasts, not kings. After draining one, I realized their energy was shallow. It only filled about 10% of a single pressure point. Their residual wills were even worse. Mostly just useless memories of hunting and mating. I didn't stop, though. I moved from one body to the next, secretly devouring them while the others were busy skinning. By the time I finished the 10th wolf, I had successfully filled one more pressure point, bringing my total to 71. It was a good start. The wilderness was crawling with beasts. As long as I kept killing, I would keep growing. As we finished, I looked at the discarded remains. Captain, are the meat and blood useless? Pretty much, Zhong Wuba said. You can eat it to stave off hunger, but it doesn't have enough energy to help with cultivation. I sighed internally. I had hoped to refine them into spirit yellow pills, but the quality was clearly too low. Just to be sure, I whispered to my system. System, can this meat be refined? A cold mechanical voice echoed in my head. Scanning target. Detection complete. Blood and meat quality is too low for effective refinement. That settled it. Not every beast was a treasure. I needed stronger prey. Let's move, Zhong Wuba said, checking his gear. We're heading into Lianfeng town. We'll clear the beasts sector by sector. If we hold it for 3 weeks, the mission is a success. Lianfeng town was massive, covering over 20,000 acres. It used to be a bustling hub, but since the beast invasion, the defenses had crumbled and the residents had fled to Linqing. Now it was a ghost town. As we stepped past the outskirts, the silence was suffocating. Weeds and thick vines choked the streets, climbing up the crumbling walls of abandoned houses like green skeletons. It felt like a graveyard. Stay sharp, Zhong Wuba whispered, his hand on his axe. This is where the real monsters live. Be ready for anything. We hadn't gone far when a low, vibrating growl stopped us in our tracks. A massive, multicolored tiger lunged from a corner, blocking our path. It was 3 times the size of a normal tiger, 5 meters long and 3 meters high. This was a spirit-colored tiger, a creature mutated by dense spiritual energy. It roared, a sound so powerful that birds scattered from the nearby trees in a panicked cloud. Zhong Wuba's face went pale. Careful, that's a primary class beast, and it's a nasty one. Xiaoyu, find a vantage point now. Hongyu, Lin Yuan, we're going to kite it. Do not try to kill it in one hit. These things don't have obvious weaknesses like the wolves, and one swipe from those paws will snap your bones like dry twigs. Lu Xiaoyu retreated to find a sniper nest while the 3 of us charged. The tiger roared again, the ground trembling under its weight as it lunged at us like a falling mountain. My heart hammered against my ribs. According to the Great Peng's memories, a spirit-colored tiger was a top-tier predator among primary beasts. If I were alone, I would have run without hesitation. But here, with the team, we had a chance. The battle was chaos. The tiger's claws whistled through the air, forcing us to dive and roll constantly. Every time its paw hit the pavement, the concrete shattered. It took 2 grueling hours of constant movement and coordinated strikes, slowly bleeding it out, before the massive beast finally collapsed. We spent the next hour harvesting the valuable parts: the teeth, the pelt, the tail, and the paws. Unlike the wolves, almost every part of this tiger was worth a fortune. While Zhong Wuba packed the loot, I leaned against the carcass, quietly devouring its essence and letting the system scan its powerful blood. I could feel my strength surging already. I scanned the spirit-colored tiger's carcass and realized its flesh and blood were just barely high enough quality for the system to process. Using the excuse of taking samples for research, I gathered some meat and blood, pretending to store them away. In reality, I was feeding them into the system. A notification chimed in my head. The system had refined the tiger's remains into a chi rime pill. It wasn't much, but even mosquito legs have meat. I swallowed the pill secretly, feeling a small stream of chi flow into my body. Combined with the energy I had already drained from the tiger during the fight, my 70-second pressure point was now 20% full. I looked at the rest of the tiger's body and felt a pang of regret. If the others weren't standing right there, I could have refined the entire beast. The pill would have been much higher grade, and the chi gain would have been massive, but I had to play it safe. I couldn't risk exposing my secrets, so I forced myself to endure the loss. In the days that followed, the Tyrant Blood Mercenary Group made Lianfeng Town our base. From sunrise to sunset, our lives revolved around one thing: hunting beasts. We did this for 20 days straight. We fought over 80 battles. Sometimes we were the hunters, surrounding a beast with calculated precision. Other times, we were the ones surrounded, fighting for our lives in the blood-stained ruins of the town. Every day was a cycle of slaughter. I took every advantage I could. By using my devouring art and the system's refining function, the small gains started to pile up. I managed to fill 29 more pressure points. Including what I had before, I had now fully charged 100 pressure points. My physical strength surged from 325 pounds to a staggering 400 pounds. I was catching up to Zhong Wuba. I only had 20 points left to hit the major milestone of 120. It wasn't just raw power, either. By devouring the wills of the beasts I killed, I absorbed their combat instincts. At the same time, the constant life and death struggle helped me digest more of the golden-winged Great Peng's memories. My fighting style became sharper, more fluid, and far more lethal. Zhong Wuba, Hong Yu, and Lu Xiaoyu watched my transformation with disbelief. On our first day in town, I was just a rookie who could barely handle a common beast. By the 20th day, I was a force to be reckoned with. I could hold my own against almost anything the town threw at us. One night, the four of us sat in an abandoned building, surrounded by 4 large bags stuffed with loot. Zhong Wuba looked at me as I took off my mask. The student look was gone. 20 days of carnage had washed away my innocence, leaving behind a cold, mature edge. I didn't look like a kid anymore. I looked like a soldier. Brother Lin, Zhong Wuba said, his voice full of genuine emotion. I don't admire many people, but I have to hand it to you. These 20 days, you've made me see you in a whole new light. Your progress is insane. Hong Yu and Lu Xiaoyu nodded, their eyes filled with wonder. I gave them a small, tired smile. The wilderness breaks people, but it also tempers them. Without this place, I wouldn't have improved this fast. Zhong Wuba leaned in, curious. I have to ask, even if it's a bit personal. What's your strength at now? For 100 pounds, I replied. The room went silent as the 3 of them sucked in a breath of cold air. They remembered me starting at 325. A 75-pound increase in 20 days was unheard of. They hadn't improved at all in that time. Once you pass 25, your natural chi absorption slows down significantly. Most people their age need expensive gene serums just to see a tiny bump in power. Even a young genius would struggle to gain that much strength so quickly. It meant I had filled roughly 30 pressure points in less than 3 weeks. Zhong Wuba shook his head, a look of respect in his eyes. Incredible. When you're famous and powerful, don't forget us. We're still a team, after all. How could I forget? I said. We only survived this because we watched each other's backs. I'll remember this. We finished our dry rations and set up a rotation. Hong Yu took the first watch while the rest of us tried to sleep. We rotated every 3 hours, making sure everyone was rested for the final push. The next morning, we geared up and hid our loot in the building. Today was the last day. If we finished the sweep, we could head back to Lin City tomorrow. Based on Zhong Wuba's math, we were each looking at a $10 million payday. We walked down the ruined streets. It was eerily quiet. After 20 days of hunting, the beast population had plummeted. This was exactly why the government issued these missions, to stop beasts from gathering in large numbers near the city. We patrolled for 2 hours without seeing a thing. Then, I heard a faint sound to our left. I turned toward a patch of tall shrubs and swaying grass. Zhong Wuba's instincts kicked in immediately. "Stay sharp," he whispered. "Something's coming." We formed a defensive circle, backs to each other. For a moment, there was only the wind. Then, a flash of white blurred through the bushes. In front of me, I shouted. The others spun around, but the creature was gone. "It's fast," I warned. "It's definitely a beast. Be ready." We waited, hearts pounding. The silence stretched on, making my skin crawl. Just as the tension started to dip, a white shape exploded from the tall grass in front of Zhong Wuba. It was a white fox, but massive, 3 meters long and 1 meter high. Its brown eyes were cold and predatory, and its paws ended in curved, razor-sharp claws. "Scatter!" Zhong Wuba roared, bracing behind his shield. The fox leaped, slamming into the shield with the force of a speeding truck. The impact was too much, and Zhong Wuba was sent flying, hitting the ground hard. The fox didn't hesitate. It lunged forward, jaws open to finish him off. I moved instantly, intercepting the fox from the side, my black gold battle blade whistling through the air in a heavy overhead chop. Hongyu moved with me, our weeks of teamwork showing in our synchronized strike. The fox snarled, its eyes flashing with malice. It swiped its left paw, its claws clashing against my blade with a violent metallic ring. The vibration traveled up my arm, turning my palm numb. My pupils shrunk as I realized this thing was stronger than it looked. I realized immediately that this white fox was dangerous. Out of all the beasts we'd encountered over the last few weeks, this thing was at the top of the food chain. It had already gained the upper hand with one strike. The fox didn't waste time. It twisted its head, snapping its jaws toward me. Just then, Hongyu arrived. She lunged forward with her triangular spike, aiming straight for the creature's throat. If that hit landed, the fight was over. The fox sensed the danger. It swung its massive, heavy tail like a whip, slamming it into Hongyu before she could react. She was sent flying, tumbling across the dirt. Luckily, her combat armor soaked up most of the impact, saving her bones from shattering, but she stayed down, gasping as her internal energy surged violently from the shock. Then, a gunshot cracked through the air. Lu Xiaoyu had found a vantage point and fired. The bullet was fast. The fox, still recovering from its clash with me and Hongyu, couldn't dodge in time. The sniper round tore into its forehead. The beast let out a pained roar as blood leaked from the wound. But to my horror, it didn't drop. Lu Xiaoyu looked stunned. Usually, his custom sniper rifle could punch through a beast's skull with a single shot. This time, the bullet had only managed to wedge itself into the flesh and bone. The fox's eyes turned red with rage. It locked onto Lu Xiaoyu's position and charged. Xiaoyu didn't hesitate. He packed his gear and bolted. He was our fire support, not a frontline brawler. Zhong Wuba scrambled to his feet and intercepted the beast from the flank. He looked excited. "This is a white-haired spirit fox," he shouted. I knew the name. It was a rare, high-tier primary beast. Its flesh and blood were key ingredients for expensive gene medicines. The government paid anywhere from 20 million to 100 million credits for one, depending on its size. This one was 3 meters long. Zhong Wuba estimated it was worth at least 40 million. If we killed it, our total earnings for this mission would double. Each of us would walk away with 20 million credits. The team froze for a split second, then a wave of pure greed and adrenaline hit us. We weren't just fighting for our lives anymore. We were fighting for a fortune. Zhong Wuba cut off the fox's path to Xiaoyu. He swung his massive battle axe, aiming for its belly. The fox snarled, whipping its tail again. Zhong Wuba raised his shield just in time. The impact sounded like a car crash. The force sent him staggering back, his boots dragging through the dirt. The fox tried to pivot to finish him, but I was already behind it. I let out a roar, swinging my blade at its tail. It sensed me and leaped away, making my blade hit nothing but air. As soon as it landed, Hongyu was there, thrusting her spike at its soft underbelly. The fox twisted midair, swiping its paw at her. She saw it coming and backed off, refusing to trade blows with that raw power. Another shot rang out. Lu Xiaoyu had found a new spot. The bullet streaked through the air, aiming for the fox's head again. But the beast was wary now. The moment the muzzle flashed, it leaped aside. The bullet whistled past. Before it could recover, the three of us, Zhong Wuba, Hong Yu, and I, surrounded it. Despite its injuries, the fox didn't retreat. It knew it was stronger than any of us individually. It wanted to kill us one by one. The chaos lasted for 2 hours. We were exhausted, our breath coming in ragged gasps. Finally, Zhong Wuba saw an opening. While the fox was distracted by my movements, he threw his heavy shield with everything he had. It slammed into the fox's ribs, knocking the creature onto its side. "Now!" I yelled. Lu Xiaoyu didn't miss. From his balcony perch, he fired a round directly into the fox's existing head wound. The bullet hit the mark, shattering the skull further. Blood blossomed like a red flower. The fox shrieked, finally feeling the cold grip of fear. It tried to scramble up to flee. It didn't see me. I had slipped behind its head the moment it fell. Die! I channeled every ounce of my strength, 600 pounds of force, into a massive overhead chop. My blade slammed into the bullet wound. The shockwave of the impact turned the fox's brain to mush instantly. I pulled my blade out of the cracked skull with a grunt. "Its bones are like iron," I muttered. My arms were shaking. Even with a full power strike on a pre-existing wound, I hadn't been able to cut all the way through. Zhong Wuba walked over, grinning at the carcass. "It's supposed to be hard. Xiaoyu hit that same spot twice and still didn't penetrate. That's why this thing is worth 40 million. I felt a surge of heat in my chest. I secretly activated my system to scan the body. The prompt confirmed it. The fox could be refined. I was dying to take some of the meat, but Zhong Wuba had already made it clear the body needed to be intact to get the best price. I noticed blood pooling under the fox's head. "Captain," I said, trying to sound casual. "The head is leaking everywhere. Can I bottle some of this for research?" Zhong Wuba laughed. "Sure. You always were a nerd for beast biology." I pulled out a spare bottle and filled it to the brim with the spirit fox's blood. It was a shame I couldn't get the meat for a pill, but the blood would still be a massive boost to my spiritual energy. Zhong Wuba took a deep breath. "It's almost evening. Tomorrow, the mission is over. Between the rewards, the materials, and this fox, we're looking at 80 million credits." 80 million. My heart hammered against my ribs. After 21 days in the wilderness, I was going home with 20 million credits. For an ordinary person trying to become a transcendent, that was a life-changing fortune. Wealth is found in danger. I kept repeating that phrase in my head. If I had stayed in the safety of the city, I might not have earned this much in a lifetime. But out here, I could buy 6 bottles of high-grade energy serum with my share. I was finally moving up in this world. I looked at the others, calculating the numbers. With 20 million credits, I could break through 120 pressure points easily. "I'm going to take a long vacation after this," Hao Hong Yu said, her voice filled with relief. "My nerves have been fried for 20 days. I feel like my body is about to collapse." Executing these missions was exhausting, but the wealth made it worth every second. I felt the same way. I needed to rest, recover, and use gene serums to break through to the chi-sensing realm. I wanted to become a transcendent. Zhong Wuba looked toward the horizon with a glimmer of hope in his eyes. Even at 30, he still dreamed of crossing that threshold. Even if his potential was limited and he never reached the body refining realm, becoming a transcendent changed everything in the Han Summer country. It was a status upgrade. If he ever wanted to stop being a mercenary, he'd have plenty of career paths open to him. Up on the balcony, Lu Xiaoyu let out a breath she'd been holding. She gripped her rifle, already thinking about how her share would change her family's life. She could finally buy them a decent house. But just as she was about to pack up and join us, a group of uninvited guests appeared at the end of the street. They wore heavy combat armor and moved with purpose. Leading them was a man in crimson armor, carrying a massive broadsword. Others followed closely behind. They stopped 100 meters away. The man in red stared at the white-haired spirit fox lying at our feet. His eyes flared with pure greed. Every veteran mercenary knew what that fox was worth, at least 40 million credits. In the wilderness, you could fight for your life for months and never see that kind of money. Now, 40 million was just lying there in the dirt. And we were standing right next to it. To a man like that, we weren't just people. We were a jackpot waiting to be cashed in. Zhong Wuba's face darkened. The Mad Tiger mercenary group. Not them again. Hao Hongyu whispered, her posture stiffening. What's the deal with them? I asked. They have a nasty reputation, she said, her voice low. They constantly pick fights over kills. There are rumors they wiped out an all-female group called the Ling Su Squad. The whole squad vanished out here. Didn't the authorities investigate? I asked, shocked. They tried. But how do you investigate a disappearance in the wilderness? No bodies, no evidence. The Mad Tigers denied everything, but everyone knows the two groups crossed paths right before Ling Su disappeared. Everyone stays clear of them. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the wind. I thought humans would stick together against the beasts, but the reality was much uglier. Where there was profit, there was slaughter. Brother Lin, you were thinking too simply, Zhong Wuba said. I nodded. I wasn't a saint, and I learned fast. I centered my breathing and watched the 5 men across from us. Up on the balcony, Lu Xiaoyu didn't pack her gun. She quietly reset her aim. The man in the red armor laughed. Well, if it isn't the Blood Tyrant squad. I heard you lost a member recently. Replaced him already? I assume it's the kid in the black armor. We're just passing through, Lin Ao, Zhong Wuba said coldly. We didn't expect to run into you. But you did run into that fox, Lin Ao said, his eyes never leaving the carcass. What incredible luck. I'm truly jealous. Zhong Wuba's hand tightened on his weapon. He wanted to avoid a fight, but he knew where this was going. Since you're just passing through, keep moving. This town is our mission zone. So eager to kick us out? Lin Ao smirked. We can leave. But first, hand over the fox, your loot, and all the materials you've gathered these past few weeks. Do that, and we'll walk away. What do you say? His men started laughing behind him. The boss is right. It'd be a sin to walk past a spirit fox and not take a piece. Zhong Wuba's voice turned to ice. There's nothing to talk about, then. You think you have a choice? Lin Ao spat. Look at the facts. The Mad Tigers are stronger than you. You're down a veteran and hauling a rookie. Hand it over, and you might live. Otherwise, I can't guarantee how messy this gets. Lin Ao took a step forward, his aura flaring. Is your pride worth more than your life? My energy level is 430. Yours is barely 400. We have the numbers and the strength. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. He was trying to pressure us into surrendering. If we gave up, he got the loot for free. If we fought, he'd have to kill every single one of us to make sure no one reported him to the authorities. Zhong Wuba looked at me. He was calculating the odds. Lin Ao was stronger than him, and they had an extra man. But he didn't know about me. He didn't know that after 20 days, I wasn't just a rookie anymore. I was at his level. Brother Lin, Zhong Wuba said quietly. If we fight, do you have confidence? I felt a surge of cold fury. Taking my money was the same as killing my family. I needed those credits for my future, for my father, and for my sister. If these men stood in my way, I would cut them down. They aren't taking a single credit, I said, my voice flat. Zhong Wuba grinned, a savage, desperate look. That's all I needed to hear. F.K. them. We didn't risk our lives out here to give our pay to these scavengers. If they want to bite us, we'll break their teeth. Zhong Wuba turned back to Lin Ao and raised his weapon. Don't get too cocky, Zhong Wuba growled, his voice dropping to a low, dangerous warning. I'll say this one last time. The mainland is right in front of us. If you leave Lianfeng town peacefully, I can pretend this never happened. But don't forget, the tyrant blood mercenaries aren't a soft target you can just squeeze. Lin Ao's eyes flared with a murderous light. He spat on the ground, a cruel smirk twisting his face. Damn it, you really don't know how to take a hint. Fine. Brothers, wipe out the tyrant blood mercenaries. His team didn't hesitate. They were already itching for a fight. Who doesn't love money? Why else would we risk our lives in the wilderness? We killed beasts for profit, and killing people was no different. Lin Ao started barking orders. Hu Xing, you're the third strongest. Join me against Zhong Wuba. We'll use our combined strength to take him down as fast as possible. He's the biggest threat and the most likely to slip away. Understood, brother, Hu Xing replied. He was the third in command of the Mad Tigers, clad in green light armor and wielding a long sword. Ma Fu, Lin Ao continued. You deal with the woman. Ma Fu grinned, his eyes gleaming with a disgusting, predatory light. Sure thing, boss. But after I take her down, can I keep her alive for a bit? We've been out on this mission for days, and I'm burning up. I heard the woman from Tyrant Blood is a real beauty. Probably not much different from a whore anyway. Do whatever you want, Lin Ao said dismissively. Just don't screw up the mission. Don't worry, boss. Once I'm done having my fun, I'll slit her throat. Ma Fu held up a long hook in one hand and made a slicing motion across his neck with the other. As the second strongest in their group, he was fully confident he could handle Hao Hongyu. Hey, Brother Fu, don't keep all the fun to yourself. Yihu Xing chimed in with a sinister chuckle. Let the rest of us have a turn before you kill her. Ma Fu laughed. No problem. We're brothers, aren't we? Lin Ao cut them off. Enough. Save the talk for later. Lei Kong, you're the fastest. Go deal with that sniper on the balcony. He's in that abandoned building about 50 meters behind Zhongwuba. See him? Lei Kong gripped a dark green spear, his eyes locking onto Lu Xiaoyu's position. I see him. He's mine, boss. Good. Su Lin, can you handle the new kid? Yang Shulin laughed, his chest swelling with confidence. Boss, is that even a question? I might be at the bottom of our rankings, but I'm still way stronger than some rookie. I can tell by his voice he's just a brat. He won't have any real combat experience. Yang Shulin stood 6 feet tall, boasting 330 pounds of raw strength. He wore light red armor and brandished a pair of steel claws. They were 16 inches long, blood red, and strapped firmly to his wrists. All right, Lin Ao shouted. The plan is set. Kill them all, and we split the loot. Move. The 5 members of the Mad Tigers charged. They moved like a pack of wolves, each locking onto their target. Lin Ao and Yihu Xing rushed Zhongwuba. Ma Fu headed for Hao Hongyu. Lei Kong sprinted toward Lu Xiaoyu, and Yang Shulin came straight for me. Zhongwuba watched them close the gap, his expression grim. Here they come. I'll hold off Lin Ao. Hongyu, find your own opening. They'll be coming for you. Understood, Captain, she replied, her face set in stone. Lin Yuan, Zhongwuba said, looking at me. The outcome of this fight depends on you. Kill your man quickly, then come support me. I understand, I said calmly. My eyes were already fixed on the man with the steel claws. My first opponent is the one with the claws. Zhongwuba nodded, then signaled to Lu Xiaoyu in the distance, telling him to adapt as needed. In a close-quarters ambush like this, a sniper's role was limited. He wanted Lu Xiaoyu to stay safe and only take shots when he had a clear opening. Lu Xiaoyu understood. He lowered his rifle and vanished back into the shadows of the building, looking for a new vantage point. A sniper trying to fight hand-to-hand against these guys would be suicide. Kill, Zhongwuba roared. He charged forward to meet them. As the distance closed, Lin Ao let out a chilling laugh. Zhongwuba, I gave you a way out. Now, you're a dead man. Zhongwuba didn't waste his breath. He raised his axe and shield, bracing for the impact. Lin Ao and Yihu Xing split up, flanking him from both sides. The battle exploded instantly. To avoid the chaos of the main clash, Hao Hongyu and Ma Fu moved to the left, carving out their own space to fight. Meanwhile, Lei Kong ignored everyone else and sprinted toward the building where Lu Xiaoyu was hiding. He was a veteran. He knew how dangerous a sniper could be if left unchecked. They weren't transcendents yet. Even with armor, their flesh and blood couldn't stop a high-caliber bullet. Yang Shulin and I also moved away from the center, heading to the right side of the alley. He was sprinting at me, his face twisted in a manic grin. Kid, you're dead. Ha ha ha. Is that so? I muttered. I remained perfectly still, watching his every movement. When he was only a few feet away, Yang Shulin lunged. He swung his steel claws toward my head with everything he had. He was pushing his 330 pounds of strength to the limit, hitting with the force of 400 pounds. He was confident he could overpower me instantly. He was fast, but I was faster. After absorbing the memories and instincts of so many beasts, my combat skills and power delivery had reached a level far beyond my rank. I had already bypassed the realms of chi sensing, body refining, and bone strengthening. I was already touching the mysteries of the fourth realm, the realm of technique. I synchronized my mind and body, channeling every ounce of my 400 pounds of base strength into a single, perfect strike. I swung my black gold saber. The blade cut through the air with a deafening whistle, the force behind it exploding to a massive 650 pounds. It happened in a blur. Yang Shulin's claws were still mid-swing when my blade passed through his neck. We crossed paths. His head flew into the air, his eyes wide with a mix of terror and utter disbelief. The head hit the ground and rolled, blood spraying from his neck like a fountain. His headless body crumpled forward into the dirt. In the distance, Lin Ao caught the movement out of the corner of his eye. His heart skipped a beat, and his assault on Zhong Wuba faltered for a split second. How is this possible? He thought, his mind reeling. Su Lin was insta-killed? How is that kid so strong? He was terrified. The fight had only just begun, and he had already lost a man.